Lin Yu went home in his car and was happy. However, the people on the space carrier are not so leisurely. The idea of Loki and Barton was to create chaos and awaken the monsters in Banner. So, they attacked without hesitation. Although Lin Yu's reminder made Nick Fury aware of Barton's arrival a little bit in advance, it was still one step too late. An arrow with explosive ability was shot from Barton's bow and arrow and exploded directly on an engine of the space carrier. This shield space carrier has a total of 4 engines. Because one of them lost power, it immediately caused a problem with the flight of the space carrier. Plus Barton and others are destroying everywhere. There was a mess on the space carrier. And at the moment, in the chaos, Dr. Banner's mood suddenly became a little abnormal. It stands to reason that this little mess should not cause him to become a Hulk. But everyone hadn't noticed. When they were arguing before, they had all been affected by the spiritual scepter. The mind scepter can affect people's consciousness even without touching the human body. It's just a little weaker. But even this weak influence also caused Banner to go crazy after the chaos. Finally, in the horrified eyes of everyone, Dr. Banner transformed. Become that scary green monster. The Hulk is finally here. In an instant, the Hulk began to destroy frantically. In the early stage of Avengers, the strength of the Hulk can be regarded as the top. Even Iron Man was not the Hulk's opponent at all in the early days. Definitely. The first to be unlucky was Thor. Because everyone hid, that Thor could only stand still. Boom. The Hulk kicked Thor directly from the space carrier. When the others saw this, they hid further. The Hulk also became more unscrupulous. Just when everyone on the space carrier was fighting for survival, Lin Yu has returned to the grocery store in his Camaro. Although this grocery store is not spacious, Lin Yu feels comfortable only when he is here. Maybe it's because I have lived here for a long time and got used to it. Or maybe it's the people who are closest to me here. Wanda, the younger sister who has lived in the orphanage with Lin Yu since she was a child, is almost Lin Yu's only relative in the world. After Lin Yu traveled to this world and occupied this body, he actually absorbed all the memories of the original owner along the way. At the same time, also inherited the feelings between Wanda and Wanda. So, although Wanda regards money as fate, and sometimes treats herself as her personal belongings like an old hen guarding the baby, Lin Yu never said a word of mind. That's because, in this world, Lin Yu may have many people who care. However, Wanda is always the closest one. It's also the one who shares our tribulations together, but never abandons. But, for some requirements, Lin Yu still cannot meet Wanda. For example, just as Lin Yu walked in, Wanda greeted him. "Brother, you are back. I have made a lot of money recently. Would you like to change your glasses? Your eyes seem to have been worn for a long time," Wanda said with some shame. Today's sun seems to come out from the west. After making money for so long, it was the first time to buy something for myself. But the thing chosen by Meow is not quite right. Own glasses, but baby, even if you change your sister, you can't change your glasses. Joke. Impossible. Thinking of this, Lin Yu was slightly taken aback. Something's wrong. I don't seem to take off my glasses. Lin Yu looked down. Really, not picked. Lin Yu was terrified. Sins. Lin Yu hurriedly turned his head and quietly took off his glasses. On the opposite side, Wanda thought Lin Yu had agreed with her opinion and hurriedly wanted to take over the old glasses from Lin Yu. In an instant, the cold sweat on Lin Yu's forehead came out. This glasses, apart from the infinite mutation system, is probably my biggest secret. Lin Yu's hand shrank quickly. He tucked the glasses in his hand quickly into the pocket inside the coat. "Little girl, you won't be allowed to say such things in the future," Lin Yu said righteously. Wanda was taken aback for a moment. "Your brother, I am not a person who is greedy for wealth, and we have all walked through hard times together. Don't mention this kind of extravagance and waste in the future. Especially my glasses, although they are a bit old, they work very well, but you can't have the bad habit of throwing things away." Lin Yu's education is still so sharp. After Wanda was taken aback for a while, he suddenly felt that what the old man said made sense. The siblings are not the kind of people who like to be too material. Extravagance is not a good habit. Wanda nodded solemnly, and secretly said in his heart, as expected, he is still not as mature as his older brother. At this moment, Wanda suddenly noticed Mjolnir in Lin Yu's hands. Her eyes lit up suddenly. "Brother, you have worked hard. Let me help you get this hammer." I don't know why, Wanda seems to be too enthusiastic about Lin Yu. Lin Yu thought before and after, there can only be one reason. That is the arrival of Sharon. Before Sharon came, Wanda was definitely not like this. And now, she actually wanted to buy herself glasses, and she had to help herself with a hammer. There is something tricky. There is a trick. Before Lin Yu agreed, Wanda reached out and grabbed Mjolnir's hammer handle. Lin Yu hurriedly wanted to stop. This hammer can't be picked up by ordinary people. If you accidentally hurt your arm, it won't be good. But at the moment, in Lin Yu's mind, he suddenly thought of the system prompt. Ding. Mjolnir in the hands of the host suddenly fell in love with this cute little sister, and wanted to get close to Wanda. Lin Yu was stunned for a moment. Wanda has snatched Mjolnir from Lin Yu's hands. I grabbed Mjolnir's hammer handle and snatched a circle, and then said in surprise, "Brother, what is your hammer made of? Why does it feel so light?" Wanda thought it was heavy, so I wanted to perform in front of Lin Yu. However, the hammer felt so light as soon as it started. Wanda suddenly became interested, picked up Mjolnir and held it in front of him, and looked up. At this time, Sharon also walked down from the second floor. Seeing the hammer in Wanda's hand, her face suddenly showed a trace of confusion. "This hammer seems familiar. Sister, show me." Sharon stretched out her hand and said to Wanda. Hearing this called roar, Lin Yu was shocked. "What? Little girl? On this day, when I was not at home, what happened in this grocery store? Why these two people suddenly became so close? Why did Wanda suddenly change her attitude toward herself by 180 degrees? What is the reason? Morality is depraved or human nature is distorted? Do not. This is not the time to consider these." Lin Yu hurriedly reached out, trying to stop Sharon. "This is Mjolnir. Its weight is immeasurable. If Sharon is not careful, she may hurt herself." However, at the moment, ding, Mjolnir suddenly fell in love with this young lady again, and wanted to get close to Sharon. Lin Yu's extended hand suddenly stopped in midair. And this time, Sharon has taken Mjolnir from Wanda. After all, Sharon is a high-level agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Naturally, he has seen some confidential information about Thor. At a glance, she seemed to remember where she had seen the picture of this hammer. "Hey, boss, is your hammer a toy model of Mjolnir? It's so realistic." After speaking, Sharon threw Mjolnir up excitedly, drove a few laps in midair and then easily received her hand. At the moment's Lin Yu, I don't know what to say anymore. Sharon's current behavior, if Thor sees him, I'm afraid he will go crazy. Ding. Mjolnir felt the feeling of happiness for the first time and decided to extend the strike time to 10 days. As for the original owner Thor, there is a young lady accompanied by his sister, no matter what he does. See this happy scene. Lin Yu suddenly felt that he should do something. This hammer seems to be a natural fit for staying in your own home. If you count Sharon, there are now 3 people in my own family. It unexpectedly wanted to get close to all 3 people. What does this mean? Isn't this obviously a signal released by Mjolnir? It seems that he is determined to betray Asgard, betray his former master Thor, and join the arms of the grocery store. This is throwing away the dark and throwing light. Lin Yu is not a hard-hearted person. Faced with such a simple request, such a cute hammer, Lin Yu decided. Satisfy it. Wanda, don't play the hammer, I will arrange a task for you. Lin Yu suddenly said to Wanda, who was studying Mjolnir with Sharon. After thinking about it a little bit, Lin Yu had an idea in his mind. This kind of thing, I am the best at it. Wanda was overjoyed and hurriedly asked, Brother, what mission? When both and Sharon are both present, if you have something to find yourself first, that is petting. It's my preference for myself. Wanda was very happy. Hastily leaned in. However, Lin Yu was thinking about what was just now, and he didn't notice Wanda's excitement. After thinking about it a little bit again, Lin Yu said, You go buy some goods and make a beautiful cloak, the more gorgeous the better, and then find someone to build an axe out of iron. The bigger the better, the heavier the better. The axe and cloak are Thor's standard equipment. While arranging Wanda and Lin Yu, he picked up a piece of paper from the counter of the grocery store. On that piece of paper, I drew a picture of an axe. The pattern of the axe on the paper, in Lin Yu's eyes, resembled the storm axe for Thor that Nidavill's last dwarf created in the later period of Marvel. However, Lin Yu's painting level is a bit average. After Wanda took the paper, he couldn't tell it was an axe for a while. Brother, what did you paint? Wanda asked. Axe, look back and let people engrave a few more words on the handle of the axe, it's called storm axe, Lin Yu smiled and said. Wanda was stunned by Lin Yu's words. But, how does this look like a sweep? Sweep. Lin Yu touched his head awkwardly. Then he said, don't worry about so much, just follow this pattern. Regardless of whether it looks good or not, the important thing is momentum. The name is domineering enough. Brother, what do you want these two things for? Wanda asked. A gorgeous cloak and a big, heavy, and strange axe. These two combinations seem a little weird. Lin Yu didn't answer Wanda's question, but pretended to say in a profound way, don't worry about so much, you can get these two things for me as soon as possible, and then put them in the most conspicuous position in our store. I am useful. By the way, give them a price and write 900 billion. Lin Yu smiled mysteriously and arranged again. Even Wanda was shocked when he heard this number. Brother is crazy. So expensive, who can afford it? If the black shop can be divided into levels, then my own grocery store should be considered the strongest in the universe, right? Lin Yu's brains are very good, especially when preparing yin people. Mjolnir, it seems that he can't run away long ago. But what Lin Yu wants to solve is how to make Thor willingly give Mjolnir to himself. He has to be convinced. Lin Yu didn't want to anger the whole Asgard because he grabbed a hammer. So, can't grab it, can only be traded. The willing kind. The kind that even Odin has nothing to say. At the moment, Thor, who is being calculated by Lin Yu, is waiting hard for the rescue of S.H.I.E.L.D. The battle on the space carrier has basically ended. But at the very beginning, Thor was kicked off the space carrier by Rage's Hulk. Fortunately, as a member of the Acer Protoss, his body is extremely strong. Although he fell from a height of 9 kilometers, he did not suffer too much damage. But the question now is, without Mjolnir, Thor loses flight's ability. Thor can only raise his head and look at the fragments of the space carrier falling into the sky, and he can do nothing. Obviously, Loki and Barton have invaded the space carrier. However, Thor at the moment can only wait for rescue in place with a bitter expression on his face. Thor looked at the boots that had been taken off beside him, crying without tears. Especially Meow, why didn't you take off this boot that suddenly became as heavy as a mountain earlier? In that case, it would not be kicked from the sky by the Hulk like a target. In the above words, at least I can help a little bit. But speaking of these boots, Thor is even more puzzled. How could this thing suddenly become so heavy? What is going wrong? Is there any connection with the weight of your hammer? Thor was lost in thought. The battle on the space carrier soon ended. After all, Loki didn't want to fight a crazy monster like the Hulk. He just wanted to make Avengers messy, so that he could buy time to open the portal. After bringing back the Mind Scepter with Barton, Loki left the spaceship in a plane. His plan is basically successful, although there was a little accident in the process. However, the ending is always good, but thinking of the accident, the more he thought about it, the more he felt something was wrong. Why does that mortal know his true identity? Why did you directly hit your pain point as soon as you exported it? It stands to reason that Thor should not reveal his identity. How did he know? And also, why didn't Lin Yu press the button, but the cell door under his feet suddenly opened? Thinking about it, Loki felt a little scared. If I really hit the ground at such a high place, I guess I might not be able to survive. Fortunately, Barton was right next to him, and he happened to see his fall. Otherwise, the consequences could be disastrous. At the moment, Loki is already thinking, if I see that mortal in the future, do you want to avoid it? Barton, how is Eric's portal completed? Loki turned his head and asked Hawkeye Barton. He decided that he still didn't want to worry about Lin Yu. A mortal, even if it's a little weird, can't decide the overall situation. When Barton heard this question, a smile suddenly appeared on his face. Then he said, almost all preparations have been made, and it is estimated that all will be completed at noon today. Hearing Barton's report, Loki's mood became excited again. I also forgot all the unhappiness I had before. When the portal opens, Chitauri's army will come, and then the entire Earth will be its own territory. What Avengers, what S.H.I.E.L.D., all must surrender to their feet. Okay, let's go to the Stark mansion now, Loki ordered. Barton on the side directly grabbed the driver's position. Driving the plane abruptly speeded up and flew quickly in the direction of Stark Industrial Building. But what Barton and Loki didn't know was, just when the two flew to the Stark Industrial Building, it's on 58th Street in Manhattan, which is only a few kilometers away from the Stark Industrial Building. In front of a very humble grocery store, Lin Yu leaned on the doorframe, frowned, and looked towards the roof of the Stark industrial building. In his heart, he was thinking about a very serious problem. If Chittori's army does come, will my grocery store be too close to the battlefield? Lin Yu has never worried about his life safety. After all, my system is not vegetarian. Especially after awakening the negative mutation ability, it is simply a bug-like existence. As for Wanda, don't worry. Scarlet Witch's ability, even in the late Marvel, is the top existence. Even Thanos, who has collected 5 infinite gems, is hardly Wanda's opponent. Moreover, under the influence of the system, Wanda's strength seems to be much faster than the time in the movie. Therefore, it is naturally impossible for these Chitauri miscellaneous soldiers to hurt Wanda. As for Sharon, it's a little weaker. Among the 3, only Sharon had no plugins. She is just an agent. Although among ordinary people, it should be regarded as the top powerhouse, but in the face of such a large-scale war, it is estimated to be a cannon fodder level. But Lin Yu turned his head, looked at Sharon who was holding Mjolnir in his hand, and suddenly felt that his worries were a bit redundant. Just now, Lin Yu has already explained to Sharon. He talked about the possible chaos and the invasion of alien life, and put Mjolnir back into her hands. Lin Yu has only one arrangement for Sharon. That is, when you encounter an enemy, you throw the hammer out at the opponent's face. Simple and violent. The only thing Lin Yu worries about is his small grocery store. Because, I have become accustomed to living here, and it has become Lin Yu home. For this reason, Lin Yu sent Erha and Bumblebee to the door. And ordered them, if they encounter aliens, they will kill them on the spot. Seeing a dog and a car at the door engrossly, Lin Yu's hanging heart was finally let go. Lin Yu returned to the grocery store again. Chittori's invasion hasn't arrived yet, and I don't know when it will come. The bored Lin Yu sat next to the computer and played computer games. World of Warcraft. This is the only familiar game Lin Yu found in this world. It seems like the only connection between myself and the previous life. It's more like a sustenance. This game should be regarded as Lin Yu's biggest hobby in the world. Lin Yu wore glasses and watched a beautiful woman with a very good figure and appearance leave the door of the grocery store. Then he took off his glasses and looked down. The computer screen turned black and white again. In the center of the screen, there are many simple tombstones. The dungeon, the group of special meows is gone. Will the TMD tank pull hatred? Will the priest add blood? Tank and pastor, report me my name. I'm going to your house to blow your ass. Lin Yu said angrily. He walked away a little bit, but was destroyed by the group again. This is the 5th time that the regiment has been wiped out today. Definitely, today there were only 5 female customers who were pretty decent. At this moment, a weak voice suddenly came from the headset. It seems that you are the priest. On the SHIELD space carrier. After several hours of busy work, finally with the help of Tony Stark, the space carrier returned to its normal sailing state again. But this chaos caused everyone to lose their best chance to deal with Loki. And after this Loki attack, the Avengers' strength dropped sharply. The strongest foreign aid Thor lost his hammer, and his strength was almost several times weaker. And Dr. Banner, who turned into the Hulk, didn't know where he went in the chaos. The whereabouts are unknown. As for the consultant Lin Yu, he ran earlier than anyone else. After the confusion, in the whole Avengers, there were almost only 2 or 3 big cats and kittens left. At the moment, inside the space carrier that has become a little dilapidated, the United States Captain Steve and Tony are chatting. The 2 people who had disliked each other originally, after cooperating in response to the attack, their relationship seemed to ease. Loki has turned this battle into a personal vengeance, Tony said excitedly. But it's not the point is how to stop him, Steve said. However, Tony seemed to have thought of something. He frowned and continued, no, this is the point, this is Loki's purpose. Why is he going to our nest? Steve replied suspiciously. Definitely is to defeat us. Tony Stark continued to analyze. Yes, this is indeed his idea. He knows that we are a stumbling block to his great cause, right? This is his heart knot. He wants to defeat us. He also wants us to watch him win this war. What he wants is not only to defeat us, but also to the audience. Tony's eyes brightened, and he seemed to think of Loki's true purpose. He wants to be the protagonist, he wants someone to give him flowers, he has to sway around, and he also has a towering monument with his name engraved on it. At this point, Tony was stunned. These words reminded him of himself. How does it feel to be yourself? I also want to be the protagonist. I want to be noticed by everyone, and I have already written my name on the building. It seems that Loki has the same character as himself. They are the kind of people who like to be the protagonist and who like to be followed. F*K. Tony's heart was taken aback. He thought about it. According to Loki's character and style, he must have gone to the highest and most eye-catching place in New York. The same as my own thoughts, Stark Industrial Building. After a few minutes, wearing a steel battlesuit, Tony rose from the space carrier of the Shield, toward the Stark Industrial Building. Behind him, Steve and Black Widow, as well as Thor who lost his hammer, followed in the Shield plane. And at the moment, just when the Avengers went to the Stark Industrial Building. On the roof of the Stark Industrial Building, Dr. Eric has completed the final commissioning of the portal. Everything is ready. After a few minutes, Tony finally landed on the roof of the Stark Industrial Building. At the moment, Tesseract was fully activated, and Tony's attack could not prevent the portal from opening. Loki has been waiting here for a long time. Tony decided to switch to his latest Mark 7. Subsequently, Tony took off his steel battlesuit, and then talked to Loki for delay while making Jarvis prepare a new steel battlesuit. Would you like a drink? Tony picked up the wine glass on the table, poured a glass of wine, and put on the 2 bracelets that control the new generation of steel battlesuits on the table by the way. Loki seemed to understand Tony's thoughts. After all, the two of them had extremely similar personalities. He smiled slightly and said, "It's no use delaying time." Tony showed no weakness. No, not procrastinating, but to scare. I'm here to scare you. The smile on Loki's face became stronger. He slowly walked to the edge of the glass window on the top floor, looked at the sky, and said, "The Chitauri army is coming, no one can stop it." The Tesseract outside has already released a blue light. It is estimated that in less than 2 minutes, the Chitauri army will arrive. At this time, is there anything I'm afraid of? Loki spread out his hands confidently and said. As long as the Cheetar army arrives, the entire Earth will be in his own pocket. Avengers. Tony replied. Hearing the name, Loki's mouth rose even more. Seems to hear something funny. Avengers. I've seen it just now, and it seems like that's all there is to it. Tony smiled similarly, and said, I admit that our running in took a lot of time, but let me count it for you. We have your brother Thor. Loki. I seem to see him fall off that ship. Tony. We also have a legendary super soldier, the captain of the United States. Loki. There are thousands of soldiers in the Chitauri army. Tony. We still have a big guy who can frighten dead men. Loki. I seem to see the big guy and don't know where he went. Tony was speechless. When did Loki become so debating? We also have a consultant who owns a terrible pet dog. Loki laughed straight out. You Avengers, there are really any freaks. Can the waste from raising a puppy join you? At the moment, Lin Yu's grocery store on 58th Avenue in Manhattan. Lin Yu, who was playing the game, suddenly heard a system prompt in his mind. Ding, Loki, the god of tricks, speaks wildly to the host, with a disrespectful tone. There seems to be something wrong with the soul scepter in his hand, and he automatically attacked its owner. The roof of Stark building. The soul scepter in Loki's hand suddenly lit up with blue light. Loki was taken aback. The smile on his face suddenly seemed to freeze. This soul scepter clearly did not control it. But why does it emit blue light by itself? This is a precursor to an attack. Loki was completely blinded. There were only himself and Tony Stark, and he didn't want to attack him. He clearly wants to use the soul scepter to control the other party, so that he can contain the Avengers. There is absolutely no intention to kill each other. At the same time, opposite Loki, Tony was also shocked. Seeing the soul scepter suddenly lit up, he instinctively wanted to get under the table. This Loki, don't play cards according to the routine. It is clear that you have to do it before you finish speaking. It is simply unreasonable. But obviously he had no time to avoid it. The attack of the mind scepter is extremely fast. A blue light suddenly lit up. Boom. The blue light hit Loki's chest directly while Tony was stunned. Moreover, it is very powerful. He directly knocked Loki out of the glass window on the top floor of the Stark Industrial Building. Tony was completely dumbfounded. What? Not attacking yourself? This Loki, hit yourself at such a disagreement? Tony rubbed his eyes in disbelief again. That's right. Loki was no longer in front of him, and there is a big hole in the glass window next to it. Tony's ears moved slightly, and it seemed that someone could still hear Roar yelling loudly. What? Boom. Something seems to have fallen to the ground. But Loki's bad luck did not affect the opening of the portal. On the roof of the Stark building, Tesseract burst out a blue beam of light, rushing straight into the sky. Over New York City, a dark portal suddenly opened. On the other side of the portal, countless Zeta Swiss soldiers can be vaguely seen, waiting in full battle. The war is about to come. At the moment, Tony hurriedly put away the regretful expression on his face. The portal has been opened, and Loki is no longer important. The war has already begun. Tony hurriedly put on a brand new steel battlesuit and rushed towards the Chitauri fighters who had already begun to attack. In the distance, an airplane landed slowly. Thor and Steve and others walked out of it. They have also seen the portal that is gradually getting bigger, and the Zeta Swiss soldiers who are rushing in frantically. Their spirits also tightened immediately. At the same time, the streets of New York have also become chaotic. The horrible and ugly Chitauri made these innocent New Yorkers dare to be deeply despaired. Countless pedestrians scattered and fled for their lives. Over their heads, hundreds of Chitauri fighters, driving their flight machines, were killing and setting fire everywhere in New York City. Completely messed up. At the moment, S.H.I.E.L.D. is not the only one who is watching this battle. There is also the Supreme Magician Ancient One far away in Kamar Taj. As the only Supreme Magician on the Earth, her duty is to protect the Earth from external evil forces. Obviously, this time Chitauri will not stand idly by when he comes to Ancient One. But not all the magicians who guard the Earth can be dispatched. Their biggest responsibility is to guard the 3 holy places. Only the 3 holy places are intact to prevent the invasion of multi-universe. Especially the terrifying Dark Lord Dormammu. Compared to the Zeteric army, Dormammu is the real horror. If it is invaded by Dormammu, the entire Earth will become darkness. So, after arranging the magicians' respective tasks, Ancient One set off with a dozen of the best of the magician. Among them, there is one of her most proud disciples, Modu Magician. With the sling ring, I lightly painted in front of me, and a portal appeared in front of Ancient One and Mordor. The two went one after the other, followed by more than a dozen disciples behind, through the portal and directly into the holy place in New York. There are 3 holy places in the area. They are the holy place in London, the holy place in Hong Kong, and the holy place in New York. The place where Chitauri appeared this time was in the center of New York. It's not too far from New York's holy place, so as soon as I arrived at the holy place in New York, Ancient One had already seen hordes of Zeta Swiss soldiers bombarding everywhere. She hurriedly said to her disciple Mordor, "Take someone to protect the bottom, and I will protect the sky above the holy place in New York." Quote! Quote. Mordor nodded solemnly and began to arrange for the magicians. An Ancient One came directly to the roof of the holy place in New York. Whenever a Zeta Swiss soldier who does not have long eyes comes, she will use powerful magic methods to directly kill them. But because she wanted to protect the holy place in New York, she didn't have the energy to deal with the increasing number of Zeta Swiss soldiers under the portal. And as the number of Zeta Swiss soldiers increased, her brows became deeper and deeper. This time, for mankind, it will probably be a disaster of huge amounts of human power is still too weak. In a secret base underneath the New York military base, General Ross is watching the sky over New York City through military satellites. At the moment General Ross, although the skin on his face has almost recovered, but the eyebrows and hair still haven't grown. It seems that the high temperature last time has completely damaged the hair follicles on his head and face. I'm afraid I will never grow hair and eyebrows in this life. In his heart, the hatred for Lin Yu was like an erupting volcano, which could not be extinguished at all. He has not yet retaliated against Lin Yu temporarily, just because he has bigger plans. At the moment, in this restored underground base, there are separate rooms. In every room, there are a lot of complicated machines. Some rooms are still undergoing the transformation of super soldiers. With the consent of the top military leaders, General Ross's super soldier plan has been thoroughly carried out. And after the attack on the New York military base last time, General Ross is no longer in charge of the New York military district. His only duty now is to build an army composed entirely of super fighters. Do this wholeheartedly. Now, the building of the super soldier army has been going on for more than 10 days. At this time, in a huge amounts of training ground in the deepest part of the underground base, 50 super soldiers were standing neatly. Each of these super fighters is more than 2 meters high, and the body is as strong as a cow. The most frightening thing is that there is a hint of green luster on their body skin. This shows that they are all super soldiers who are genetically modified from the Hulk. Their bodies also have a part of the Hulk ability. Although the individual strength and the Hulk are incomparable, their numbers are enough to make up for the lack of individual strength. I am afraid that even if the Hulk appears in front of them, he will definitely be beaten to find teeth. This army composed entirely of super soldiers can definitely be regarded as the strongest army on Earth. At the moment, one of General Rose's deputies suddenly knocked on the door and walked into General Rose's office. General, 50 super soldiers are ready, please give instructions. Hearing the report from his subordinates, General Rose showed an excited smile on his face. Taste the courage by yourself, and finally have the army that dreams of wanting for. So, nowadays, let your own super soldiers appear in the eyes of the world for the first time. Just let yourself be the savior, definitely pregnant. General Ross actually didn't want to be the savior. He didn't bother to care about the life and death of ordinary civilians. His main purpose is actually to test the power of these super soldiers. And those Zeta Swiss soldiers are obviously very good opponents. Now the 50 super soldiers in the underground base are all the super soldiers he has built in the past 10 days. Give me an order, all will be dispatched, let the world, no, let the entire universe see the benefits of an army composed entirely of super soldiers. General Ross gave an order, and 50 super soldiers were dispatched. On the battlefield. At the moment, the battle situation was completely one-sided. Without Thor of Mjolnir, there is no way to flight, and no way to summon powerful lightning. He is completely an unskilled super infantry. At this time, Dr. Banner had not come yet. In addition, Hawkeye, who should have been in the Avengers camp, has not yet escaped the control of the psychic scepter. So, the situation of the Avengers is at stake. On the S.H.I.E.L.D. space carrier. Listening to the report, Nick Fury frowned and looked at the big screen in front of him with a heavy heart. On the big screen, Tony was fighting alone in the sky. And at the moment, Tony's steel battlesuit was already covered with scars. All the Chitauri army came from the air. Tony was the only air force on the side of the Avengers, and he faced the most enemies. No, I can't stop it at all, there are too many enemies, Tony said to all the Avengers in the communicator. He has tried his best, but the number of enemies seems to be infinite. On the ground, Steve and Natasha Romanoff are also facing the test of huge amounts of. Although their individual strengths are very strong, they have already been injured in the face of countless enemies. Steve also understands that if this goes on, it will definitely not work. The defense is too weak. Steve opened the communication with Nick Fury and said, Chief Fury, you have to find a way, our strength is not enough to resist this number of enemies. Now, even the Captain of the United States Steve can only ask Nick Fury for help. He too was helpless, on the space carrier. Nick Fury was also very anxious after receiving Steve's call for help. But all the armed forces of the S.H.I.E.L.D. have gone to the battlefield. Including all fighters, as well as agents that can be dispatched. But these forces are too weak for this war. It has no effect at all, at this moment. A trace of hesitation appeared on the Hill agent's face behind Nick Fury, and then said, Chief, do you want to ask for help from Consultant Lin? His pet dog is so strong. Hearing what the Hill agent said, Nick Fury shook his head and said, this is a war between races. Individual power can't do much. Moreover, I know the character of Lin Yu very well. It's definitely not the kind of guy who is willing to fight for strangers. After thinking about it, Nick Fury said again, but even if we don't find him, he will definitely take action, because sooner or later the battlefield will spread to his grocery store. Then, for his sister and Sharon, I will do it too. Nick Fury, as the leader of the most core force in the Marvel world, his individual strength is not strong, not even comparable to most of his elite agents. But there is a reason why he can become such an important person. At least, he is very accurate. For Lin Yu, he saw clearly. Lin Yu is not a saint, not even an ordinary person on the street. He will repay the Canthus, and he doesn't care about the life and death of ordinary people, but he is extremely protective of the shortcomings of those around him. If he threatened him with killing strangers all over the world, he would dismiss it. But if he wants to move the people around him, he will definitely be CDAH mad. So, Nick Fury concluded, Lin Yu will definitely make a move. Because this war is no longer a small-scale battle. The entire New York, and even the entire Earth, will be forced to participate in this war. And Lin Yu in New York, as well as his younger sisters Wanda and Sharon, can never be alone. When the time comes, it's up to Lin Yu to make a move. Nick Fury has always felt that Lin Yu is definitely not as simple as it seems on the surface. That pet dog and that car that can shapeshifting are definitely not Lin Yu's all means. Hearing Chief Fury's explanation, Hill nodded thoughtfully. However, her focus is not whether Lin Yu will make a move. But in the secretary's words just now, it seemed that Sharon was also included. Will he really shoot for Sharon? Hill was lost in thought. Just then, on the computer screen in front of Nick Fury and Hill, something new suddenly appeared. I don't know when, some guys in uniforms suddenly appeared on the battlefield. These people, wearing camouflage uniforms, have masks that cover almost half of their faces, and they can't see anything at all. But their size is very easy to identify. Because the bodies of these people are extremely strong. They are all taller than Chitauri soldiers. Who are they? Nick Fury was startled. He seems to feel that these guys in camouflage uniforms are a bit familiar. After thinking about it for a while, Nick Fury remembered it. These guys are very similar to the soldiers Lin Yu said before attacking him. No, it's not very similar, the body height and the faint green on the skin are exactly the same. These guys, is it possible that Chengdu is a super soldier made by the guy Rose? In an instant, Nick Fury figured it out. No wonder the guy Rose hasn't heard anything lately. It turned out to be hiding to engage these super soldiers. But seeing the appearance of these super soldiers, Nick Fury didn't feel any joy. Although the screen in front of them showed that the super soldiers were fighting with the Zeta Swiss soldiers as soon as they joined the battlefield. But Nick Fury has been dealing with Rose for a long time. He knows what Rose is best. It is impossible for him to use all his power to fight against foreign invasions. Even if it is an order from a high-level military, I am afraid it will not work well. He was in this way when he was in the New York military base. At that time, almost the entire New York military base was almost turned into his personal armament. On the screen, Nick Fury also saw a hint. Each of these powerful super soldiers is extremely strong. Even if several Chitauri soldiers join together, they are not opponents at all. With their bare hands, they can easily solve the enemies around them. But they did not rush to the center of the battlefield. Instead, it has been wandering around the battlefield. Dozens of super soldiers gathered together without any intention of rushing in to kill the enemy. They are not here to kill the enemy, they are here to train. Nick Fury realized Rose's purpose in an instant. The addition of these super soldiers did not have much impact on the battle situation. Because they didn't try their best to fight at all. The roof of the Holy Place building in New York. Ancient One also saw these super soldiers who had just appeared for the first time. As an old monster who has lived for hundreds of years, she sees it more thoroughly than Nick Fury. For the first time, she saw that these strong soldiers weren't really here to fight. And when he saw the super soldiers, a feint of disgust suddenly appeared on his face. These guys seem to have some unpleasant smells on her body. As the portal gets bigger and bigger, the huge Leviathan monster also flew in from the portal. These Leviathans are Chitauri's most terrifying war machine. They are huge, with thick armor and strong defense. Moreover, they are good at flying, and they can transport hundreds of Zetauri fighters at once. After seeing these Leviathan beasts, Tony's head was big. Although he was exhausted, he could only cheer up and meet this Leviathan behemoth. Jarvis, help me analyze the weakness of this guy. While Tony was flying, he asked Jarvis to scan the opponent's body, looking for a place to break through. However, obviously this big guy has no weaknesses. But there is still good news. After a few minutes of fighting, Dr. Banner suddenly appeared on the battlefield. He picked up the motorcycle and came to the front of Steve, Natasha Romanoff and others with a calm expression. Heard the news. Tony smiled for the first time since the war began. Then, Tony said to all the Avengers in the communicator, "Come on, let the carnival begin." At the same time, just when Avengers finally ushered in the Hulk with strong combat effectiveness, Lin Yu's grocery store finally ushered in the first Zeta Swiss soldier to visit. But different from the panic of other citizens, the three people in the grocery store looked a little excited. Especially Sharon, who just discovered that the hammer in his hand can release lightning, is already impatient. When the enemy finally arrived, her eyes lit up. Definitely. Sharon is not the most anxious yet. The most anxious is Erha. Looking at the overwhelming Zeta Swiss soldiers in the center of New York in the distance, the snails in its mouth have already flowed all over the place. Erha recently got fat again. The appetite has greatly increased. The Zeta Swiss soldier, who just came to the door of the grocery store with a gun, doesn't seem to know that he has become a sweet pastry in the eyes of one person and one dog. Dog, don't move, it's mine. Sharon saw Erha's body suddenly lit up with a touch of green, and hurriedly grabbed Mjolnir and rushed out. Erha still respects this new mistress. Although there is not much contact time, it has already understood that this woman seems to be planning to live here for a long time. And his owner did not show any rejection, so. After meeting with Sharon, Erha would also shake her fat buttocks and show great hospitality. But the food problem is not within the scope of its comedy. If Lin Yu stopped it aloud, it might be so scared that it would retract immediately. But Sharon hasn't had that authority yet. Before Sharon stepped out of the grocery store, Erha's head had already turned into a huge amounts of dog head. At the moment's 2 hectares, the transformation is not over yet. Its image is like the body of Erha with the head of a hell 3-headed dog. It looks extremely funny. Even the Chitauri soldier was stunned. Chitauri was originally a race that can share memories, so they have a wealth of knowledge. Before they attacked the Earth, they had already understood and studied life on the Earth. Naturally, I know a creature like a dog, but this Chitauri soldier did not expect that this ordinary dog, who was almost considered to have no combat ability, would turn into this look. If he weren't wearing a mask, he would probably laugh out. At the moment's 2 hectares, not only was his body extremely uncoordinated, but he also ran towards the Chitauri soldier with his short legs. Somewhat silly look. But the Zeta Swiss soldier did not show mercy because of Erha's appearance. This is a war after all. He will not allow any unknown creatures to approach him. Seeing Erha running straight towards him, he raised the weapon in his hand and fired. A blue laser suddenly appeared from the front of the weapon. Instantly hit Erha's green head, however. To the surprise of the Chitauri soldier, his weapon failed to leave a trace on that funny head. Not even a bit of the skin is broken. The Chitauri soldiers hurriedly raised their weapons again. Aimed at Erha. But this time, without waiting for him to shoot again. A dazzling light suddenly appeared in the grocery store. Sharon was afraid that she would not be able to catch up, and already held Mjolnir, releasing a bolt of lightning in the air. She really wants to test whether the lightning released on Mjolnir is strong or not. Seeing that Erha is very close to that guy, she can only use this almost cheating method. Although the lightning is not very thick, but the speed is very fast. In an instant, it hit the Chitauri soldier who was about to shoot again. I saw a few sparks burst out of the Chitauri soldier's body, and accompanied by a violent shaking, he was about to collapse to the ground. Chitauri is different from humans. They are cyborgs. Their bodies have all undergone mechanical transformation, with both flesh and blood and a part of mechanical bodies. So, what they fear most is lightning. The strong electric current burned the mechanical parts of them instantly. It also led to the instant death of this Chitauri soldier. But before his body fell to the ground, Erhana's fat body seemed to explode with terrifying power, a jump, and a bite directly on the soldier's head. Then, under the stunned gaze of Sharon and Wanda, they swallowed the Chitauri soldier whole. Although both women know that Erha is different. But after seeing this scene, they were all stunned. This is the first time they have seen Erha cannibalism. No, that's not a human being, but at least it is a humanoid creature. This kind of shock is not inferior to the first time I knew there were gods in this world. The scariest thing is, when Erha directly swallowed the Chitauri soldier whole into his stomach, it looked like a husky again. And its stomach hasn't changed a bit. Where did such a big Chitauri soldier go? Both women turned their eyes to Lin Yu. They can only hope that Lin Yu will give an answer. But obviously Lin Yu didn't know, although Lin Yu has seen Erha cannibalism many times. However, he really didn't know where the people who were eaten by Erha went. Lin Yu spread his hands, knowing nothing, don't ask me anything. Seeing Lin Yu's appearance, the two women suddenly turned their eyes to the bumblebee outside the door, which was still in the form of a car. These days, Lin Yu has introduced Bumblebee to the two of them. So, they all know the technological strength of Hornet that surpasses the Earth countless times. Lin Yu doesn't know, then this Bumblebee who has been mingling with Erha all day should know it. But Bumblebee saw the questioning gaze of the two women, and immediately activated it, slowly stepped back a few meters, and left the eyes of the two women. Bumblebee actually has a high IQ, he also understands the meaning of two women. But Bumblebee didn't know where the guy who was eaten by Erha went. Because this is no longer what science can explain. Erha's belly is a bottomless pit. And, since Bumblebee appeared next to Lin Yu, he has no longer believed in science. In front of my master, science is a lie. Otherwise, how can humans survive in places where there is no oxygen? Seeing Erha and Sharon scrambling to each other, Lin Yu was finally relieved. He quietly returned to the back of the bar, continued to immerse himself in playing online games. Lin Yu estimates that in this situation, even if you don't have yourself, this grocery store is probably the safest place in New York. Simply. Lin Yu put on the headphones directly. Concentrate on the game. As if this war has nothing to do with me. On the space carrier, Nick Fury arranged a special agent to monitor the movement near Lin Yu's grocery store. He wants to know Lin Yu's shot the first time. He felt that Lin Yu would take action to protect the two women Sharon and Wanda sooner or later. But Nick Fury didn't know. The situation in the grocery store now seems a bit weird. It is impossible for Lin Yu to take the initiative. There is no such opportunity at all. Even if the fight really started, it is estimated that the two women shot for Lin Yu. No, there is a dog and a car at the moment. A more terrifying scene appeared on the big screen in front of Nick Fury. Countless Leviathan beasts ran out from the portal. At a glance, there are about 7 or 8. Moreover, it seems that there is more behind the portal. Nick Fury's mood has become worse and worse. The situation is getting more and more difficult. Hill, are the super soldiers in Ross still wandering around? Nick Fury asked. Hill was assigned 2 jobs by Nick Fury. One is to pay attention to those super soldiers. The other is watching the movement in front of Lin Yu's grocery store. Hearing the chief ask himself, Hill hurriedly replied, Director, they are still acting on the periphery as before, and have no intention of getting close to the center of the battlefield. Hearing Hill's answer, Nick Fury had no hope for those super fighters. The guy Rose has never done anything good. What about the grocery store? Nick Fury asked, frowning again. Hill hurriedly zoomed in on the video screen in front of the grocery store and took a closer look. Then he said, There seems to be no change after taking a closer look. Hill said again. It seems that there is no Chittori near the grocery store, not even a dead body. Hearing Hill's report, Nick Fury's face suddenly showed a hint of confusion. It stands to reason, it's impossible, right? Manhattan's 58th Street is not far from the city center. How could there be no Chittori soldiers patronizing there? But, not waiting for Nick Fury to express his doubts, the Hill agent beside him suddenly changed his face. Pointing to the screen in front of her, she said, Director, a Leviathan went to the grocery store. Chief, a Leviathan monster is heading towards the grocery store. Hill agent pointed to the screen in front of her and said loudly. That huge Leviathan beast almost obscures the sky. In front of its huge body, Lin Yu's grocery store is like a small thing. But, hearing Hill's report, Nick Fury's face was not surprised but delighted. He is helpless now, and Lin Yu seems to be the last hope. Although this is a war, individual forces can't help much. However, after Lin Yu's pet dog transforms, he can still relieve the pressure on the battlefield. Hope gradually appeared in Nick Fury's eyes. He desperately hoped that these Chittori, who were not long-eyed, would disturb the quiet of the grocery store. When Leviathan suddenly appeared on 58th Street in Manhattan, Erha, Bumblebee, Sharon, and Wanda, who were standing at the door, were all seen right away. But, at this time, they had already killed many Zeta Swiss soldiers. Although the corpses were all eaten by Erha for, the goal of practicing hand was also achieved. At the moment, see the huge Leviathan coming soon. The two of them, 1 dog and 1 car, both seemed a little excited. Definitely. The 2 women are most excited. Because when Erha saw such a big monster, it had no appetite anymore. It's like a human being. After eating 30 skewers of lamb, he suddenly found a roasted whole lamb. I'm almost full, even if I roast the whole beef, I don't have much idea. At this time, Sharon, who was still in excitement, hurried forward 2 steps and came to the front of the crowd. There was a big smile on her face. It seems that the Leviathan in front of him is not terrible at all. Look at me, Sharon yelled and raised Mjolnir in his hand. In the sky, a dark cloud suddenly began to appear. Although it doesn't have the big scene of the dark clouds when Thor used it, it is also quite powerful. Lightning thundered in the dark clouds, as if endless thunder is gathering. Far away, when dark clouds began to gather over the grocery store, Thor suddenly seemed to feel something. He hurriedly raised his head and looked at the distant sky. In my heart, there seemed to be 10,000 grass mudhorses crashing past. How could he not recognize these dark clouds? Into Meow's familiarity. Moreover, Thor can even feel the lightning in those dark clouds, and has some subtle feelings with himself. He was originally Thor. Although Mjolnir was lost, he was still able to control the power of lightning. It's just that Thor hasn't fully awakening his own power yet. So, can only sigh with excitement, definitely. There is still very lonely in my heart. My own Mjolnir, it turned out not only to be snatched away. It seems that I have recognized the Lord again. This blow was too serious for Thor. Thor, who was standing in the center of the battlefield, simply sat directly on the ground. Head down. His shoulders twitched slightly. I don't know if I'm crying, or I'm a little cramped when I'm tired. Grocery store. Lin Yu is still playing the game leisurely. He didn't worry at all about the fighting outside. A bumblebee, a three-headed helldog, a Sharon holding Mjolnir, plus a Scarlet Witch Wanda who hasn't used all his strength yet, but has already revealed its rostrum. These four, standing together, if anything else can happen, it would be weird. So, Lin Yu seemed to be heartless, still playing games to his heart's content. People who don't know think Lin Yu is bullying women and dogs. But only Lin Yu knows. In this situation, if I want to be ahead, I have no chance. The thunder in the sky gathers more and more. Sharon's face became more and more excited. She felt that she had never been so cool. I have never liked fighting like this. With a powerful weapon, it is really addictive to fighting. However, just when Sharon was about to attract those thunders, behind her, suddenly a red light appeared. Do not know when. Wanda was already floating slowly. Her body was filled with red light, like red ribbons, wrapped around her. The long skirt is flying and the hair is fluttering. There was a sly smile on her face. How can Sharon steal the limelight every time? Although the relationship between the two women is much better than before, there is still a competitive relationship. And Wanda also wants to test her own strength. To what extent? I look at the store in the grocery store every day, and I don't know how much I can do if I don't go out. The red light instantly hit Leviathan's head. The terrifying shockwave dissipated around. At the same time, under this powerful impact, Leviathan's body seemed as if a high-speed train had hit the mountain. In an instant, the armor on his body was torn apart. The huge body was suddenly lifted into the air. At this moment, the lightning that Sharon controlled finally reached Leviathan. The violent electric current was constantly hitting Leviathan's body. The Chitauri fighters transported in Leviathan's body were all killed in an instant roar. Leviathan's huge body also seemed to have lost all power and fell from the sky. Boom. Accompanied by the violent sound, the whole earth trembled fiercely a few times. At this moment, on the SHIELD space carrier, Nick Fury also saw this gorgeous battle scene through the monitoring screen on the big screen for the first time. The flying red dress and the dazzling lightning made Nick Fury stunned. He knew that the powerful force around Lin Yu was definitely not only the dog and the car. Also know that Wanda seems to have some special ability. But never thought of it, his sister is so strong. The red light couldn't see what it was at all. But obviously, that is the power in Wanda's body. It's not an external force, and, except Wanda. Sharon's performance also shocked Nick Fury. She was able to control Mjolnir. The terrifying lightning was almost exactly the same as when Thor controlled it. Doesn't that mean that humans can also have the power of gods? Then Thor is a fart. What about Asgard? Although Sharon seems to be walking too close to Lin Yu now. But after all, she still has the identity of SHIELD agent. And, most importantly, she is human. It's not those gods who are illusory and far away. Hurry up, contact Sharon and let her help, Nick Fury hurriedly arranged. Although Lin Yu could not move, Sharon is different. After so many years of colleague relations, he believes that as long as he speaks, Sharon will definitely give himself face. With Sharon's terrifying power, he can definitely play a big role in the current battle. Grocery store. Nick Fury's call has not come. Sharon and Wanda are still in the excitement of destroying a giant Leviathan. Erha and Bumblebee are also watching the huge amounts of Leviathan's corpse. And at the moment, behind the counter in the grocery store. But Lin Yu's face suddenly showed a touch of control. Because he was still playing dungeon with the team just now, and suddenly discovered that the boss who was fighting with them had disappeared. The entire computer screen is full of question marks played by teammates in the game. What about boss? Why is it missing? Yes, is there a bug in the game? The teammates in the game are typing. Obviously, it's not that the boss on Lin Yu's computer disappeared. But in front of everyone, there is no shadow of that boss. Just now, because Leviathan's huge body fell to the ground shook a bit, and Lin Yu's computer also shook suddenly. After the shock, the boss disappeared, and this time, in Lin Yu's mind, the system prompt sounded suddenly. Ding. Your computer was frightened by Chidori and developed a desire to protect yourself. So, you summoned the boss Gul'dan on the computer screen to help it repel the hateful invaders. Lin Yu is a gaming idiot. Playing games is just relaxing because of boredom. But even if you are an idiot, you know that the boss in the game is fake. But now, that boss turned out to be real. Is your own computer so temperamental? If you don't agree, summon the boss in the game to protect it. This is much bigger than your own card face, at the moment. In Lin Yu's eyes, a line of small print has appeared above his computer. Name. Computer variation level. Level 5. Mutation direction. In an emergency, you can summon things in your body. Special conditions. The summoning can only be carried out when the computer is severely threatened, and the summoned item level does not exceed the computer mutation level. The existence time of the summoned object is 1 hour, and it will return to the computer after 1 hour. Seeing these small characters on the top of the computer, Lin Yu was shocked. This particular meow turned out to be a 5th level mutant. I actually triggered that 1% chance. This is the terrifying and small chance that I set off for the second time. Last time, it was when Erha mutated into the 3-headed dog of hell. Lin Yu was completely blindfolded. He snapped a line on the computer keyboard and sent it to the team chat box. What is the boss that we played just now? Nor can I blame Lin Yu for not knowing that he is really inattentive when playing games. After all, you need to wear glasses often to observe the surrounding environment. Sometimes I am excited to watch, and I will watch it for a while. For this reason, Lin Yu is always scolded in the game. But Lin Yu is still unhappy at this moment. After Lin Yu's question was typed out, the teammates responded one after another. Oh my god, after playing for a long time, you don't even know what boss you are playing. Definitely it is Gul'dan. Seeing the answers from his teammates, Lin Yu reacted. Yes, it's Gul'dan. Just now when the system prompted, it was Gul'dan. Lin Yu was taken aback again. Gul'dan? Damn it. That guy. Lin Yu, even if he is a game idiot, knows this guy who is very well known in World of Warcraft. He is the most powerful orc warlock ever. The actual controller of the Shadow Council. Most importantly, his power comes from evil energy. In World of Warcraft, the evil energy is the most evil force. And Gul'dan in the game can even sacrifice his entire race for his own strength and benefit. He's an out-and-out villain. Even if Thanos is compared to him, he can definitely be called a good person. Such a guy is going to appear on Earth? Fortunately, it is only 1 hour. Lin Yu feels that if it exists for a long time, I am afraid that the entire Earth will fall. The thoughts in Lin Yu's heart are only a momentary matter. Just after the system prompt sounded in Lin Yu's mind, New York City was less than 10 kilometers away from the center of the battlefield. Suddenly, the earth began to tremble constantly. Something seems to be breaking through. Immediately afterwards, the building collapsed and the ground collapsed. A portal made up of huge rocks rose slowly from the ground. This portal is completely different from the portal opened by Tesseract. This portal that rises from the ground is entirely composed of unknown boulders. On both sides of the portal are 2 humanoid creatures carved from boulders, holding long swords, and seemingly guarding the portal. In the center of the portal, there was a faint green halo, which looked the same color as the Hulk's skin. And this portal is very high as 3 or 4 stories. Its appearance immediately attracted everyone's attention. But this is not over yet. Just after the portal stabilized. From that portal, a huge figure slowly walked out. His skin is green, with a pierced body and countless bone spurs on his back, which is extremely clean. His appearance is extremely ugly, with 2 sharp fangs sticking out of his mouth. He is hung with countless creatures' skulls and bone decorations, and in his hand is a skeleton staff with a green glow, which is exactly the same as the shape in the game. Gul'dan, the fell warlock, finally came to Earth for the first time. At the moment, on the SHIELD space carrier, Nick Fury and Hill Agent also saw the horrible and ugly figure for the first time. What is that? Hill surprised roar for the first time. The image of Gul'dan is really terrible. Just looking at it, I feel that my whole body is shriveling. Nick Fury felt the same way. Although Gul'dan's body and skin are somewhat similar to those super fighters. However, Nick Fury knew that this monster was definitely not researched by Ross. He is definitely not a creature on Earth. Although the appearance of the orc warlock Gul'dan is very different from that of human beings, Nick Fury can still feel the thick evil from that face. Although Gul'dan hasn't done it yet, but Nick Fury felt in his heart that this guy was definitely more difficult to deal with than those Chitauri. Eventful autumn. Nick Fury's mood is getting heavier. On the roof of the Holy Place building in New York, Ancient One also saw Gul'dan for the first time. Her face instantly became serious. As the only supreme magician on Earth, she has traveled in many universes. I have even seen Dormammu in the dark dimension with my own eyes. But she had never seen this kind of power in Gul'dan. That is a very pure power. If the power in Dormammu is pure darkness, then the power in this monster is pure evil. Oh my. It's such an evil monster from there. Even if it was Ancient One, there was a trace of panic in my heart. But as the Asgardian of the Earth, she must be ready to fight. Mado, send my order. Summon all the magicians of Holy Place and Kamar Taj, and go to the Holy Place in New York. The other two holy places only retain basic manpower. I guess they yelled hurriedly. The situation in New York is already quite crisis. Those Chitauri could hardly stop them. Now, there is another even more terrifying existence. Moreover, the power of the two is not a system at all. This shows that they are not a force. Why did they come to the Earth at the same time, and what attracted them to come? Those Chitauri are good, Tesseract is good, Ancient One knows well. They are all originally products of this universe. But the appearance of Gul'dan has completely exceeded her scope of cognition. Obviously, Gul'dan is not a life in this universe. Facing the unknown, even Ancient One couldn't help but worry. In the multi-universe, there are countless powerful lives. But with the protection of the three holy places, life in other universes cannot come to the Earth in principle. However, this evil fellow can come to Earth easily. In front of the inner door of Holy Place, New York, Mordu also saw the huge amounts of portal and Gul'dan that followed. After hearing the teacher's order, he immediately began to arrange it without hesitation. Subsequently, the three portals were quickly opened. Several magician disciples quickly walked into the portal and conveyed the command of the supreme magician. The magicians on Earth almost came out for the first time, all came to New York Holy Place. Definitely. The appearance of Gul'dan was not only discovered by S.H.I.E.L.D. in the supreme magician Ancient One. On the Earth, people who were watching this war almost all saw the horrible figure for the first time. In a secret military base in New York, General Ross also saw the huge amounts of portal in the green Gul'dan for the first time through the satellite shots. And he also found another problem. That is, the place where Gul'dan appeared seemed to be beside his 50 super soldiers. The distance is less than 500 meters. There was a sudden ominous premonition in General Rose's heart. Although the picture on the screen in front of him is not very clear. But he could see that the monster that appeared suddenly seemed uncomfortable. At least the way to play is weird. Under normal circumstances, the stranger the way to play, the stronger it is. General Rose frowned slightly, and then said to his deputy without hesitation, "Tell my order to keep the team as far away as possible from the monster that just appeared to avoid unnecessary damage." The deputy took the order and immediately began to contact those super soldiers. These 50 super soldiers are all the super soldiers currently under General Ross. Every super soldier needs to spend a great price to make success. He didn't want to lose any of them. As the planner of this war, Loki naturally saw Gul'dan. But although he was also very curious about what this monster that appeared suddenly was. But he didn't take it too seriously. In his eyes, since the Chitauri army has arrived, the Earth is already in his own pocket. In front of the Zetaru army, even a monster is of no avail. At the moment, grocery store, Lin Yu learned that Gul'dan was summoned by his computer. He immediately ran to the door. I looked around. Immediately afterwards, he saw the guy he had only seen in the game. Lin Yu feels more deeply than others, because just now he was still in a group to kill him, but now he suddenly came in front of him. Lin Yu even feels guilty. What if he still remembers that he organized a group to kill him? It is not impossible. The characters in the game have already appeared in the real world. What else is impossible? Lin Yu hurriedly backed up 2 steps and hid. But Lin Yu still saw the small line on the top of Gul'dan at the moment just now. Name: Gul'dan. Race: Orc. Occupation: Warlock. Primary ability: Fell Energy. Main skills: Dark Portal. Open the portal and descend to a marked location. Drain life. Absorb the enemy's life to replenish your own strength. Fell Sickle. Reap the enemy's life in a large area. Destroy the storm. Use yourself as the center. Releases the amount of evil abilities, causing large-scale damage to the enemy. The Well of Soul. Summons a Well of Soul, and absorbs others. Soul of Life. Resurrection of Death. Giving the power of the corpse's soul, resurrecting as a Death Knight under the control of Gul'dan. Endowing of Fell. Giving the blessing special of other life evil abilities. After receiving the blessing of evil abilities, it will under the control of Gul'dan. Summon level. Level 5. Duration: 1 hour. Seeing this line of small characters, Lin Yu thought he had crossed into the game world. Gul'dan in the game has a lot of abilities, but Lin Yu didn't expect that he could bring so many abilities into the real world. God. At this moment, Lin Yu hurriedly recruited Roar, Wanda and Sharon, and said, Go home quickly, it's not safe outside. Lin Yu's words, as well as his anxious expression, made the two women not only stunned. The two were clearly killing each other. But why does Lin Yu say it is not safe? Is it because of the monster that suddenly appeared? The two women naturally saw the monster coming out of the dark door. At this time, Lin Yu couldn't manage their doubts, and hurriedly pulled them into the grocery store. Then, by the way, Erha also called in. As for the hornet, Lin Yu can't help it. The door of the grocery store is too small for him to get in. It can only be resigned. Fortunately, Lin Yu still has some understanding of Gul'dan's ability. His main ability is Fell Energy. The Fell Energy drama only has a relatively large impact on life. For Autobots, it's really hard to say. It is estimated that even outside, Bumblebee should be the safest among the people. Just after Lin Yu hurriedly hid in the grocery store, Gul'dan, who walked out of the portal, finally woke up. He slowly opened his eyes. 2 green rays of light burst out instantly. The powerful evil energy began to surge in his body. When he saw the world in front of him, a wicked smile suddenly appeared on his face. It can feel the sweetness in the air of this world. Compared with my former home, this place is cleaner and has more breath of life. Gul'dan's eyes were getting brighter and brighter. He found. There are more lives here, it's hundreds of millions. Compared with my own world, this place is simply heaven. His main ability Fell is to strengthen himself by absorbing the vitality of others. If you can turn these hundreds of millions of life breaths into your own nourishment, how strong will you be? Gul'dan became more excited as he thought about it. Although he didn't know why he suddenly appeared here, he was already looking forward to it in his heart. However, at this time, Gul'dan suddenly felt that his head had begun to suffer severe pain. Something seems to be forcibly penetrated into his brain. He suddenly hugged his head with his hands, with an expression of extreme pain on his face. But this pain comes quickly and goes quickly. In just a few seconds, it seemed to recede like the tide. But there seemed to be something more in Gul'dan's brain. He suddenly found out. I still have a very important thing to do. Although Gul'dan didn't know why it was so important, he had to finish it before he could do his own thing. It's like, that thing is my mission, and I must complete my mission first. That mission is to kill those ugly Chitauri invaders. Gul'dan didn't know why. He could know the names of those invaders. But that doesn't matter. Gul'dan's gaze suddenly looked forward. It was a huge amount of battlefield, and countless strangely shaped soldiers were constantly flying out of a strange hole. Like a group of flying bugs. Immediately afterwards, there was a cruel smile on Gul'dan's face. This mission seems to be good. In what way can you kill these worms for membership fees? Gul'dan has too many abilities. He must choose one that is convenient, fast, and most efficient. Just then, out of the corner of Gul'dan's eyes, he suddenly saw some guys who looked like him not far away. Probably, there are about 50. They are tall, with a faint green glow on their skin, like orcs who have been endowed with evil abilities. It's just a little bit like it. But in this other world, Gul'dan suddenly felt a touch of intimacy. Then let them become my first loyal servants in this world. Gul'dan opened his mouth wide and showed a smile that was uglier than crying. At the moment, under the order of General Ross, the 50 super soldiers have begun to retreat slowly. These super soldiers were injected with the serum developed through the blood of the Hulk. The desire in the mind has been magnified a lot. At the moment, they all wanted to fight happily. But They are all elite soldiers selected from the army. Therefore, they still have the last trace of restraint in their hearts. Restrained them from rushing to the battlefield, fighting happily. It was also this weak restraint that allowed them to obey the command of General Ross. However, just when these people started to move far away, behind them, Gul'dan opened his mouth and smiled suddenly. Then, he stretched out one of his own hands. The huge evil energy began to condense in his hand. The green light gradually became more and more dazzling. In the end, it converged into a green light group almost like a small sun in his hand. Go. Bring my servants back, Gul'dan said slowly. The green evil energy in his hand was released instantly and turned into 50 green light bands. These 50 green bands of light are extremely fast, and accurately hit the body of every super soldier. The huge evil energy was transmitted to the bodies of these 50 super soldiers through these green light bands. After a few seconds, the fell energy finally dissipated slowly. At this moment, the bodies of 50 super soldiers have undergone earth-shaking changes. Their bodies have become stronger, more than twice as thick as before. The green on the skin is also more intense, almost greener than the Hulk. The clothes on their bodies were all shattered, and the shoes on their feet became torn. What has changed more is their faces, at the moment. These super soldiers have almost no human characteristics. Their faces are more like the faces of the orcs in the game. Their 4 canine teeth have also grown a lot and protruded out of their mouths. At the moment, they have completely transformed into an orc eroded by evil energy. At this time, 50 superfighters slowly turned around. He looked at Gul'dan not far behind them. Their eyes all turned to a deep red color, complemented with the green on them. The red color is a manifestation of desire being magnified to the extreme. Children, tear up those nasty reptiles for me. Gul'dan stretched out a hand and pointed to the other side of the battlefield. The hoarse voice reached the ears of the 50 super soldiers. Suddenly, there were smiles on their faces as crazy and evil as Gul'dan. 50 super soldiers who had been contaminated by fell energy screamed and rushed to the distant battlefield frantically. These soldiers contaminated by fell energy are several times stronger than before, and their defense is quite strong. They are not afraid of the weapons in the hands of the Chitauri soldiers. In an instant, the Chitauri soldiers nearby were devastated. 50 fell super soldiers, like 50 orc berserkers, madly tore through Chitauri's defenses. In a secret underground military base in New York. Seeing how his soldiers had become like this, General Rose was shocked. Although it seems that these super soldiers have become more powerful, the body has been stout for more than one lap. But why did they all rush to those Chitauri? Why didn't you follow your orders? And what was the green light just now? The bad feeling in General Rose's heart became stronger and stronger. Quickly, contact them for me and let them come back as soon as possible, General Ross ordered anxiously. But the adjutant of General Ross received no response no matter how he yelled in the communicator. It seemed that no one heard at all on the communicator side. Impossible. General Rose's face became more and more ugly. The super soldiers were injected with GPS locators, and the locators showed that they were still moving. Moreover, in the picture on the screen, you can also see the scenes of them fighting crazy with Chitauri. It is impossible for them not to hear roar from their side. But the adjutant behind him, Roar, has been still calling the super soldiers. Indeed, I have never received any response. General Rose's heart became more anxious. This is all his strength now. He also counted on these super soldiers to help him regain his position in the military. Arrange for me a CDAH plane. I'm going to the scene. General Rose felt hard and decided to go to the scene to see it. His adjutant looked surprised and hurriedly said, "General, it's not safe there right now. All are Chitauri's flight machines." General Rose did not speak, but just turned his head and glanced at his adjutant. The adjutant closed his mouth hastily. He was terrified. I forgot the style of General Rose just now. Under General Ross, there is no opportunity for comments. He also absolutely does not allow his subordinates to put forward any opinions against him. Don't take it as an example. Get ready to go by plane. Don't use helicopters. Prepare a transport plane, General Ross said coldly. The flight altitude of the helicopter is too low, which is indeed unsafe. Upon hearing General Rose's order, the adjutant hurriedly wiped the cold sweat that had just emerged from his forehead. After the salute, I hurried down to prepare. At the moment, even more uncomfortable is Loki. Originally, Chitauri's army was almost like no one. Those Avengers could not stop the huge Chitauri army at all. At first sight, victory is in sight, but unexpectedly, Loki killed Cheng Yaojin halfway. The monster that came out of the portal was able to turn that group of human soldiers into crazy monsters. And the strength is so powerful, Loki's face began to look ugly. Although there are only 50 green monsters. However, their combat effectiveness is too strong. Facing the powerful Chitauri soldiers, they even punched one. But the weapon in Chitauri's hand hit them, but it seemed to be tickling. If this continues, I'm afraid it will be bad. Loki suddenly felt that his original confidence in victory seemed to have been shaken. Damn it! Where did that monster come from? Why did you oppose me? Loki cursed inwardly. Immediately afterwards, he gave the order to dispatch the whole army. The whole army is dispatched. Send a large army, and let me get rid of that nasty green monster first. Loki gave an order and all Chitauri soldiers were dispatched. And flew towards Gul'dan, in the grocery store. The 3 people who hid in the house and did not go out were lying quietly by the window, looking at the scene in the sky in the distance. What puzzled them was that the Chitauri soldiers, who were flying in the sky before, suddenly all changed directions. All flew in one direction, and that direction seemed to be where the monster appeared. Brother, what's going on outside? Should we go out and have a look? Wanda asked anxiously. Aside. Sharon also nodded hastily. Both women seemed to be a little gossip. At this juncture of crisis, I still want to go out and have a look. Although, Lin Yu also wants to know how awesome Gul'dan is. But Lin Yu didn't want to hurt the innocent. There is a system, as long as those who hurt themselves will be subject to negative mutations. But the special Gul'dan is his own. Whether it was Gul'dan accidentally hurting himself, or his own system hurt Gul'dan, it was a bit inappropriate. If the boss summoned by your own computer is killed by your own system, it would be really funny. Ding. Your computer has sensed the idea that the owner wants to peek, and has actively added a function for checking the status of the summoned object. Please the host peep on the computer screen by yourself. Under Loki's orders, thousands of Chitauri fighters rushed towards Gul'dan in flight. All over the sky, like locusts. The pressure of the Avengers disappeared instantly. They suddenly discovered that the Zeta Swiss soldiers who had been fighting with them had all turned around. What's the situation? Steve asked hurriedly in the communicator. Yes, how come all these Zeta Swiss soldiers ran away? Natasha Romanoff also responded. At this moment, among the Avengers, only Tony Stark can see the most clearly. There was no Zeta Swiss soldier beside him either. Even the huge Leviathan beasts all flew in one direction. The direction of the monster that appeared suddenly. These Chitauri all went to the monster. Tony hovered in the air, staring at the crazy scene in front of him dumbfounded. Thousands of Chitauri warriors all pounced on that guy. Where is that monster sacred? Why let Loki do his best to deal with him first? It seems that these Chitauri are all attacking the monster that just appeared, Tony said in the communicator. Sky. Loki was also standing on a Chitauri flight, watching the crazy scene coldly. When I saw tens of thousands of Chitauri warriors, under my command, they all rushed towards the monster. A smile gradually appeared at the corner of his mouth. At this time, he felt very good. Control thousands of armies, and a single command can make tens of thousands of fighters fight frantically for themselves. Moreover, there are countless humans on the ground, trembling under their feet. Loki's favorite is this feeling. Control everything, and it's the focus of everyone's attention. HMPH, since you can control so many monsters, then concentrate on killing you first. Loki snorted and hovered quietly in the air, watching tens of thousands of Chitauri warriors approach the monster. The artillery on the Chitauri spacecraft began to light up, and the fingers of the Chitauri soldiers were all pressed on the trigger. It seems that in the next second, that monster will be covered by endless firepower. And under such dense surroundings, even if he wanted to escape, it would be basically impossible. There was already a triumphant smile on Loki's face. But at this time, Gul'dan, who was standing still and had not moved, suddenly moved. The corner of his mouth curled slightly. If there is nothing, it seems to be mocking something. At this moment, the skeleton staff in his hand was suddenly lifted slightly. Then it hit the ground in an instant. Boom. A horrible scene happened. At the moment the staff landed, a huge green flame, centered on the staff, spread out instantly. Destroy the storm, launched instantly. This is a large-scale skill that can be activated instantly without chanting. The only drawback is that the cooling time is a bit long. But for Gul'dan, this is already the best opportunity. Almost all of the Chitauri soldiers who came to the Earth through the portal have arrived not far away from them. At this time, it is the best time to release the storm of destruction. A terrifying green flame swept all Chitauri soldiers in an instant. No matter it is in the sky or underground, no one is spared. As long as it is a life of flesh and blood, it can't resist this terrifying force against the flesh at all. Those Chitauri, although they were covered with mechanical armor, but their flesh is still centered on flesh and blood. Those battle armors couldn't stop the destruction storm at all. They were penetrated in an instant, directly hitting the flesh and blood of all Chitauri soldiers. Almost in less than a second, the Chitauri soldiers in the sky suddenly fell one after another. The soldiers on the ground slumped to the ground one after another. The power of the number one fell warlock in World of Warcraft has finally revealed itself in the Marvel world for the first time. Sky. The distance was a little far away, and Loki, who was not affected, was shocked. Tens of thousands of Chitauri elite fighters were killed in an instant? What is this ability? Is it magic? Or an evil curse? Loki thought about the ability he knew, but none seemed so scary. Even his father Odin, when using his Odin scepter, there is no way to destroy so many Chitauri fighters at once. Fear. Horror. Loki hurriedly controlled the flight machine under his feet and fled to the distance. In his heart, the seeds of fear have been completely planted. And at the moment, the direction in which Loki fled was the direction of the portal. There are still countless Chitauri soldiers who are entering the world through the portal. At the moment, only standing under the portal can he bring Loki a little bit of psychological comfort. And the current portal has become bigger and bigger. Chitauri soldiers enter this world faster, although tens of thousands of Chitauri soldiers were killed at once. But the army of Chitauri, at least tens of millions. Those that have died are just a drop in the bucket. However, when Loki came under the portal, turned his head again, and looked at Gul'dan, a scene that made him even more frightened appeared. Gul'dan moved again. He held up his staff and chanted a spell in his hoarse voice in a low voice. Then he used a sharp bone on his body to make a cut in his palm. Dark green blood dripped onto the ground along the wound. The blood dripping on the ground quickly seeped into the ground. Then a magic circle glowing with lavender light with a huge scope appeared at Gul'dan's feet. Immediately afterwards, in the sky above the magic circle, many things glowing with blue light suddenly appeared. Those blue substances look like a human form. It seems to be soul. Yes, it feels very much like a soul. It seems that it is the human souls who died in this war. They were summoned by Gul'dan. Then, after waiting for such blue souls all over the sky, Gul'dan smiled slightly, and the skeleton staff in his hand struck the ground again. Those blue souls began to dance all over the sky in an instant. They seemed to be looking for something. Immediately afterwards, the thing that Loki will never forget finally happened. The blue souls each found Chitauri's body and got in. Then those corpses stood up staggeringly. There was a faint blue glow in their eyes and mouths. All of them are resurrected. Even a dozen huge leviathan beasts slowly flew up again. But the Chitauri soldiers who were resurrected again are no longer the original Chitauri. They are no longer under the control of the Chitauri mothership. Instead, they all stood quietly, facing Gul'dan's direction. It is clear, they were actually controlled by Gul'dan. This is another powerful ability of Gul'dan, resurrection from death. You can absorb the souls on the battlefield, and then give them fresh bodies, and in the process turn them into puppets who only know to obey orders. Tens of thousands of Zeta Swiss soldiers with a light blue light in their eyes, after Gul'dan gave an order, once again picked up the weapons on the ground and mounted the flight machine that could still fly. More than a dozen huge leviathans are also lined up in a row, waiting for them. At this moment, the original 50 fell super warriors also came to Gul'dan's side and stood quietly by the side. Gul'dan, who came to this world alone, relied on his powerful evil energy to create an army out of thin air. And it is an army that is not afraid of death at all, and only obeys his orders. The battle on the battlefield finally changed from Chitauri's one-sided advantage to a melee between the two sides. It's just that the two sides of the melee are not Chitauri and Avengers. Nor is it the disciples of Chitauri and Ancient One. It was the powerful fell warlock Gul'dan leading his servants and Chitauri, who kept passing through the portal to this world. In the grocery store, Lin Yu took Wanda and Sharon. The three of them leaned close to the computer and saw this horrible scene. When Chittori, who was given the power of the soul, stood up, the two women suddenly opened their mouths, their eyes widened, and their faces were incredible. As a native of the earth, they have never seen such a weird thing. Dead creatures can be resurrected, and such a weird way. It almost collapsed their worldview. Is it a scientific society? But, compared to the two women, Lin Yu's reaction was not too great. Because, he had known Gul'dan's powers a long time ago. Although it happened in the real world, it looks even more terrifying. However, Lin Yu still accepts that ability is stronger when he knows some things in advance. Not to mention, this Gul'dan was summoned by his own computer. When Gul'dan led the army to declare war on those Chittori who had newly arrived on Earth. In Lin Yu's mind, the system reminder sounded again. Ding. Congratulations to the host for deeply participating in the Marvel core plot of the Battle of New York. Participation is 50%, and 5 plot points are awarded. If you continue to participate in depth, you will get more plot points. Hearing this system prompt, Lin Yu's eyes lit up. After only participating in 50%, he has already gained 5 plot points. If this is all involved, wouldn't it be possible to add 10 points to this plot alone? The first final plot of Avengers is really extraordinary. Compared with other core plots, the plot point is doubled. But Lin Yu thought for a while, and it was normal. This Battle of New York, after all, is the core of a core in the entire Marvel world. Here, Avengers finally began to make a splash. It is also here that the Earth in the Marvel world finally begins to conflict head-on with other forces in the universe for the first time. A 10-point plot point is reasonable, but Lin Yu was slightly confused. Now Gul'dan, summoned by his own computer, has been so desperate to participate in 50%, so what is the remaining 50%? Lin Yu is still not sure. On the roof of the Holy Place building in New York. Just when Gul'dan took action against the tens of thousands of Chittori soldiers. Ancient One is ready to do it. Although Gul'dan seems to be the enemy of the invading Chittori, the power he used is really evil. Ancient One could even smell the evil smell in the air after Gul'dan released his skills even far away. Even compared to the pure dark taste of Dormammu, it is more pure. That is pure evil. Evil is the source of all chaos. The darkness is just darkness. Compared with the two, Ancient One feels that evil is even more terrifying. Not to mention such pure evil, but when Ancient One was ready to do it, she hesitation a little bit down, because the next scene stunned her completely. That evil monster actually condensed tens of thousands of souls at once. As a supreme magician, Ancient One also controls a trace of soul power. But she can only let herself or the soul in contact with herself get out of her body. But you can't let the dead soul recondensate. Within the scope of her knowledge, after the death of human beings, the soul will also dissipate. It also represents the real death of this person. But that evil guy unexpectedly summoned and gathered the souls of dead human beings again. The blue things floating in the sky can't be seen clearly by others, but Ancient One can see clearly. Those, all are souls. Tens of thousands of souls who died in this war. Gul'dan's methods have completely stunned Ancient One. For a moment, she even forgot to do it. The next scene shocked Ancient One even more. Gul'dan, the use of the soul, made Ancient One an eye-opener. He was able to put the dead soul back into other corpses. This is simply unheard of, unseen, at the moment. Ancient One also no longer has any belief in victory. Having lived for hundreds of years, Ancient One felt for the first time that he was probably not an enemy's opponent at all. Maybe he is not the enemy? In Ancient One's heart, suddenly had another thought. Although the monster is full of evil power, but he didn't use that power to deal with the human beings on the earth, but went directly to the invaders. Maybe he is the same as himself. Ancient One has also been secretly absorbing the power of the dark dimension. It seems that the nature of the two is the same. Ancient One slowly retracted his spell, and then quietly observed it. She felt that her own idea was possible. Even though the monster looks ugly, it hasn't attacked humans on Earth so far. Maybe I should observe again if he still wants to attack humans in the end, then it is not too late to go and fight him desperately. At the moment, on the battlefield, after Gul'dan's participation, everyone in Avengers had nothing to do with it. Even Tony had already landed from the sky. And Hulk, because all the enemies had gone to fight with Gul'dan's servants, he lost his enemies and finally slowly recovered his human form again. Barton, who was originally controlled by Loki with a psychic scepter, also regained consciousness because of too long time. at the moment, also returned to the middle of the Avengers. Everyone in Avengers stood quietly on the street not far from the portal in New York City. No one Chittori came to trouble them, simply. Everyone directly found a clean place and sat down. Faced with this situation, several people are a little bit reluctant to force them. It was originally the main force against Chittori's army, but in an instant it became a spectator. The change of this role is really fast. Several people even had time to chat in the corner of this battlefield. Should we do something? Barton asked weakly. He had been controlled by Loki before, and he had shot the Avengers several times, causing them a lot of trouble. And now, after his mind has recovered, he wants to do something for this war. In other words, do something for your teammates. Only by getting busy can he forget the horror of being controlled by his mind before. But it seems that there is really nothing to do. If you are energetic, go and fight them. Tony pointed to the battlefield in the distance without too much trouble, and said. Yes, since you want to fight so much, then go. Natasha Romanoff also vomited. After hearing the words of the two teammates, Barton turned his head and looked at the fiery battlefield in the distance, and shook his head in embarrassment. Forget it, I'm not going to be cannon fodder anymore. On the other side of the battlefield, those Chittori fighters who were resurrected by Gul'dan were not afraid of death, although the number was much smaller than the number of Chittori soldiers who came in through the portal. However, they are not afraid of death at all. And even if he was hit by fire, it seemed like nothing happened. They were originally dead men. With Chittori's hot weapons, there is no way to kill them again. On the other hand, Chittori, even if it is dead, is constantly replenished. The situation of the battle was so stalemate. At this time, if anyone dared to rush to the battlefield, it is estimated that it is simply looking for death. But, shouldn't we think of a way to close the portal? Barton said weakly after thinking about it. Just when the battlefield was in full swing, in a confidential meeting room on the S.H.I.E.L.D. space carrier, Nick Fury, director of S.H.I.E.L.D., has again received notice of the meeting of the World Security Council. In the meeting room, on the big screen in front of Nick Fury, those familiar faces appeared again. Several members of the World Security Council. They are the department responsible for supervising S.H.I.E.L.D. But, at the last meeting, Nick Fury and these people fell apart because of the formation of Avengers. So, this meeting was a bit embarrassing. Especially Nick Fury. Surely say that by forming a response team, Loki's aggression can be resolved. But I didn't expect it. This emergency team did not seem to play a decisive role. What really prevented the Chittori army from coming turned out to be a monster that looked extremely ugly and didn't know where it came from. This makes Nick Fury, who was originally vowed, feel a little embarrassing. But he is Nick Fury after all. As one of the thickest-skinned people in the Marvel world, he quickly returned to his original calm appearance. But after hearing a director speak out their decision, Nick Fury's calmness disappeared again. What? Are you going to use nuclear weapons against New York? Nick Fury asked in shock. Have you considered it clearly? That's New York City, a city with tens of millions of people. Have you thought about the consequences of dropping nuclear weapons on New York? Furthermore, the battle on the battlefield is still going on, and we haven't completely lost it yet. Nick Fury was furious. He really didn't know what these people thought. Could it be that in order to win the war, one can do whatever it takes? Can you sacrifice tens of millions of ordinary people? Is this for the people of Melekan or for themselves? Moreover, the current situation on the battlefield, Chittori does not seem to take advantage. Director Fury, the two sides fighting over New York are both invaders. No matter which side of them wins, it will be a disaster for the Earth. Now is the best time to solve them all at once, the director said. Nick Fury just wanted to retort. At this moment, the director in the middle said righteously, Director Fury, this is something the council has decided. Your space carrier is the closest to there, so. When Nick Fury heard this, his face suddenly became angry. You can tell your decision, but I can also refuse it. I can't order a nuclear strike against civilians. Nick Fury exploded and turned off all the big screens in front of him. He has also been completely disappointed with the members of the World Security Council. They are a group of politicians who only know to protect their own interests. But Nick Fury obviously underestimated the ability of this group of people. Less than 2 minutes later, a fighter plane carrying a nuclear weapon secretly took off from the S.H.I.E.L.D. space carrier. Nick Fury's lungs are going to explode, but the fighter plane has taken off, and he can't block the fence at all. I can only call Tony's communication in a hurry. As a whole Avengers, it seems that only Tony can solve this problem. Tony, a fighter plane is heading towards you, and he has nuclear weapons on it. Hearing Nick Fury's words, Tony was completely blindfolded. Nuclear weapons? These lunatics are going to drop nuclear weapons on the most prosperous city in Malekin. It's crazy. Before Tony had time to greet Roar with his companions, he just took off. While starting the flight, I shared this terrible news with my companions in the communicator. Suddenly, there were some people who were idle just now, and they immediately became energetic. Nuclear bomb. They have a high self-esteem, but they have never felt that they can withstand a nuclear bomb. That kind of thing is simply a disaster created by mankind. At the scene, there was only one person who had not yet realized what he was about to face. What is a nuclear bomb? Thor asked dumbfounded. At the same time, General Ross also took a transport plane and came to the sky over New York. His mood is very uncomfortable. Why did the super soldier army that I worked hard to build suddenly become disobedient? The creation of these super soldiers is very troublesome. Not only is it necessary to carefully select suitable soldiers, but also the soldiers' bodies can deeply integrate with those serums. In this process of building super soldiers, although only 50 soldiers succeeded, the number of soldiers who died in the experiment has reached more than 200. This probability of success is a test of huge amounts for the military. The current information is too transparent, and it is impossible to completely conceal the death of these soldiers. So, the military has issued an order to let General Ross postpone the creation of the super soldier. It can be said, in the future, it will be more difficult to build a super soldier than before. And these 50 super soldiers are even more precious. Sitting in the cabin of the transport plane, through the computer screen in front of him, General Ross could clearly see the scenes of super soldiers fighting Chitauri. They have become stronger and more fearless than death. This made General Rose's heart dripping with blood. Such a strong fighter, why didn't he obey the command? But, at this time, a phone call came in suddenly. After General Rose's adjutant picked it up, his face changed drastically after hearing a few words. He put down the phone and hurriedly said to General Ross, "General, it's not good. A nuclear missile is coming here. It is estimated that in 5 minutes, the nuclear missile will explode near here." The adjutant was terrified. Who is crazy to drop missiles into a tens of millions of big cities like New York? General Rose was originally absent-minded, but when I heard the 3 words nuclear missiles, I immediately struck a spirit. Nuclear missile? Rose asked his adjutant in disbelief. The adjutant nodded solemnly. As a general of the military, he understands the power of nuclear missiles better than anyone. General Ross was completely regretful. "I just arrived here, and want to see if I can save my super soldier. There are nuclear missiles coming?" "Isn't it? Your own super soldier is not saved? The super soldier army that you have worked so hard to build is not going to turn into ashes in the nuclear missile explosion? Who ordered the launch of nuclear missiles? Call me to terminate this operation," General Ross roared angrily. General Ross still has a certain degree of authority in the military. He really didn't want to give up his 50 super soldiers. That was almost all his hard work. It is also his hope of turning over. But, at this moment, the adjutant said weakly, "It is not an order of the military, it is the World Security Council." Hearing the name, General Rose looked dazed. "It's over. You can't control this department yourself. It's pretty good if someone can remind oneself. It is estimated that it is impossible to stop their attacks." In an instant, General Rose seemed to be quite old. Will all my hopes finally be destroyed? Damn it. Blame the hateful Lin Yu. It was he who controlled his dog, destroyed his military base, and made himself finally reach this point. If your own military base is still there and there are countless soldiers under your own hands, then you can build your own super soldier army without relying on the Pentagon. General Ross blamed everything on Lin Yu. "Turn around, let's leave," General Ross ordered through gritted teeth. Immediately afterwards, he seemed to feel more uncomfortable the more he thought about it. He threw a fist on the computer in front of him and shouted angrily, "Lin Yu, I will definitely kill you and cramp you to get rid of my hatred." At the moment, Lin Yu, who was in the grocery store, was taken aback. In my mind, the system prompt sounded again suddenly. Ding. The United States Army General Ross spoke rudely to the host, intimidated and threatened. He couldn't stand the plane he was in, so he decided to change the course, take the initiative to meet the upcoming nuclear missile, and leave this absurd world. Lin Yu was a little confused. He hid well at home. No one provokes. Why did General Rose scold himself? I even scared myself. Crazy. In this world, there are really all kinds of messy people, and the hatred between himself and General Rose seems to have been provoked by him on his own initiative. I have always been passive in revenge. Now, he didn't hate him, he hated himself instead. It's really unreasonable, but, nuclear bomb? Lin Yu suddenly noticed the word in the system prompt. At this time, Lin Yu suddenly remembered the plot that he almost forgot. The fighting on the battlefield is too fierce now, and Gul'dan is too fierce. Those Chitauri feel like endless players, attacking a powerful boss in a group. This gives Lin Yu the feeling of watching the game live. Let Lin Yu patronize and appreciate the battle, and for a while forgot about the nuclear bomb. But it's not a big deal if I don't remember it. General Rose was indeed a good man. He took the initiative to ask for help to resolve the threat of nuclear bombs. At the moment, on the plane where General Ross is. After General Ross gave an order, the pilot began to control the plane to leave the sky over New York. But sudden, an electronic synthesis sound came from the cab. Autopilot is turned on, please leave the driver's cab. Autopilot is turned on, please leave the driver's cab. Autonomous driving is turned on, The pilot of the plane was blindfolded. When did you start autopilot? No, I didn't turn on autopilot. Do not. Wrong. Even if the autopilot is turned on, there is no such thing as a pilot leaving the cab. I haven't heard of that. After the aircraft turned on autopilot, the flight crew was asked to leave the cockpit. What's the situation? The driver was a little flustered and started to operate in a hurry. The operation was as fierce as a tiger, but the plane seemed to be unresponsive. And it has been playing the sound just now in a loop. Autopilot is turned on, please leave the driver's cab. Autopilot is turned on, please leave the driver's cab. Autonomous driving is turned on, the driver was completely stunned. And the flight direction of the plane also suddenly turned a turn and flew in the opposite direction from before. Looked at the flight direction on the dashboard. The flightman was shocked. The flightman has also heard all the conversation between General Ross and his adjutant just now. But according to this flight direction, wouldn't it be getting closer and closer to the place where the nuclear bomb exploded? At this time, the flightman finally remembered to report to General Rose. Because he can't solve it anymore. If you fly in this direction again, it is estimated that the missile will collide with the missile before it explodes. General, our plane failed, the flightman said in a panic. In the cabin. After hearing the flightman's words in the earphones, General Rose's face was taken aback. What is an airplane failure? Okay, how could it fail? What's the situation? Make it clear, General Ross said coldly. The most annoying thing about him is that his soldiers cannot speak clearly. I was so coldly reprimanded by General Ross. The flightman is even more nervous. Not because of fear of General Rose. It's because, if you continue to explain, I am afraid it will be too late to jump the plane. General, hurry up. The flightman's face was horrified, and his heart throbbed. Say it clearly. Escape is important. Before General Rose asked again, a hiss sound came from the headphones. Flightman, he was offline. At this moment, the adjutant of General Rose seemed to have noticed something too. He hurried to the side of the airplane window and looked out the window. This look suddenly scared silly, because he saw the figure of the flightman. The flightman actually jumped down. Definitely, he jumped down with a parachute. But the question is, the flightman ran away, who will drive the plane? Immediately afterwards, the adjutant saw a scene that made him feel even more frightened. Unconsciously, how did the plane fly over the center of New York City? He can even clearly see the glowing tesseract on the Stark Industrial Building. General, we seem to have flown back, General Rose's adjutant said blankly. Outside the window, not only the Stark Industrial Building can be seen. You can also see countless Chitauri soldiers fighting against the servants controlled by Gul'dan. Fortunately, the altitude of the plane was slightly higher, and it was temporarily not shot down by those Chitauri. But the question now is, what should I do if there is no flight crew? Moreover, the most serious problem is that the missile is also coming. Do not. Missiles are not the most serious problem. Because if you skydive at this time, you will definitely jump to the center of the battlefield. For a moment, General Rose and his adjutant, with big eyes to small eyes, were completely helpless. But General Rose and his adjutant parachuted. After all, parachuting still has a chance of surviving. The two picked up their parachutes, opened the rear door of the plane, and jumped down without hesitation. But To them, fortunately, below them, there seemed to be a place where there was not much fighting. It seems that Chittori's soldiers have deliberately avoided that place. There was a bright yellow sports car parked on the ground. As he got closer to the ground, General Rose's heart became more and more excited. The small sports car below looks intact. After a while, you can find a way to fire, and then drive this car to rush out, away from the battlefield. I still have a chance. Stay in the Green Mountains without worrying about no firewood. As long as you can escape, you can make a comeback. At this time, General Rose stopped thinking about his 50 super soldiers. Your own life is the most important, but at this time, General Ross saw it suddenly. A shop door beside the yellow sports car was suddenly opened. A fat head suddenly emerged from the crack in the door. Immediately afterwards, it seemed to hear some movement, and actually raised its head and looked at the sky. At the moment, General Ross was less than 200 meters from the ground. He could even see that the pet dog that suddenly emerged from the store had a smile on his face. Right. Just smile. The corners of its mouth were slightly tilted up, revealing a row of sharp canine teeth inside. Even, its eyes turned into crescent-shaped smiles. General Rose suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart. Moreover, how does this pet dog look so familiar? Immediately afterwards, General Rose remembered that he had seen it there. Because the husky on the ground suddenly turned green. Especially its dog's head, in a few seconds, it became crazy big. Until it became a green monster with a huge head. Isn't this Lin Yu's pet dog? Isn't it that it destroyed its military base twice? Did you burn your hair and eyebrows? Then General Rose found out even more horrified. The monster on the ground actually opened its blood basin in the direction of its fall. General Ross even felt that even two selves would definitely be swallowed in one bite. Mid-air, General Rose struggled frantically, trying to change the landing position. But it is too close to the ground now. Even if you try harder, it is estimated that it can only be offset by a few meters. This distance is the same as not moving. General Ross wanted to take hold of the parachute, but found that he couldn't undo it at all. Time does not wait. No. With a loud scream of horror, roar, the first generation of Marvel World table heroes, General Ross, slowly landed in Erhan's big mouth of blood. Shocked, Roar stopped abruptly, in the grocery store. After hearing the loud roar, the Lin Yu trio hurriedly raised their heads and looked out the door. But only an empty parachute outside the crack of the door can be seen. Erha, hurry up and get me back, Lin Yu roared. Erha was so scared that he hurriedly changed back to his original form and ran in from outside. Lin Yu kicked his ass. The one who hates iron but not steel said, "Don't you know how dangerous it is outside? Still running around." Feeling a foot on his butt that was lighter than a tickle, Erha burped aggrievedly. I walked to the corner of the grocery store, shook my head, and spit out a boot full of saliva. The death of Rosé is just a trivial matter for the entire Marvel world. Even Lin Yu didn't know that General Ross had ran into Erha's belly by himself. Lin Yu doesn't care about people like General Ross at all. In the Marvel world where monsters and monsters fly all over the sky, an ordinary military general really can't make a big storm. And at the moment, although General Ross has become the food of Erha, but the plane he flew before was still flying in the sky. And the speed has reached the fastest. Originally, this kind of transport plane could not fly too fast. But I don't know if it's the cause of the system or what. Its speed has exceeded the limit. The two engines on the plane made an overwhelming roar and flew towards the east of New York. And at the moment, on the sea east of New York, the fighter plane from the SHIELD space carrier is rapidly approaching New York. The pilots of this fighter jet have sweat in their palms. Although he only obeyed the order, he knew if the nuclear missile was actually dropped into the center of New York by himself, then his name will be recorded in the annals of history. However, it will not be a positive description. But he couldn't help it. As a small flightman, if he doesn't obey the order, the consequences are definitely not something he can bear. The fighter flightman was nervous. Tony at the moment was even more nervous. He has seen the plane in the distance through the high-tech telescope on the steel battlesuit. Even, he has seen that under the fighter plane, a missile has been set up. Then, it should be a nuclear bomb. However, just when Tony was thinking about what to do, he suddenly felt that the entire sky was darkened. Tony hurriedly looked up. In the sky a huge transport plane, Roar whizzed past. Tony was a little dumbfounded. When did the transport plane fly so fast? The fighter pilot did not expect that a plane would fly towards him. And at the moment, the driver is in a moment of extreme tension. Did not pay attention to the black spot in the distance. Nor did I see the small dot shown on the radar. His focus is all on the red button in front of him. Ready to launch nuclear missiles, the fighter pilot said nervously. 3. Emission. Boom. As soon as I pressed the red launch button, a violent explosion suddenly sounded in the sky. A huge amounts of mushroom cloud, rising from the sea level. The shock of terror set off huge waves on the sea. Even Tony, who was watching from a distance, was not spared and was lifted off by the huge amounts of shockwave. It wasn't until he fell into the ocean that Tony finally stabilized his body. The nuclear bomb exploded on the spot. It happened to collide with that transport plane. At this moment, Nick Fury's surprise voice rang from Tony's communicator. Stark, how did you get that nuclear bomb? Nick Fury was surprised. It is the best result to be able to make a nuclear bomb explode at sea. If it really explodes in the center of New York, the consequences will be disastrous. But Tony really wanted to solve the nuclear missile himself. After all, it's such an easy thing to show off. But he is not so thick-skinned that he claims to be his own credit for what has nothing to do with him. It seems that a large transport plane collided with that missile just now. Tony thought about it and explained. But he himself found this explanation somewhat ridiculous. A state-of-the-art nuclear missile hit a transport plane. If he heard this kind of news, Tony himself would not believe it. After all, for things like transport planes, the flight speed is very slow, and nuclear missiles all have a guidance system. It is unlikely that they will collide with other things unless they reach their destination. What did you say? Nick Fury asked incredulously. He saw the huge amounts of mushroom cloud on the big screen. But I didn't notice how it exploded. At this time, hearing Tony's words, it was like he was joking. Definitely. Nor can I blame Nick Fury. After all, even Lin Yu, after hearing the violent explosion, felt that the system made a joke of huge amounts of with him. A joke like a mushroom cloud, in the grocery store. Lin Yu frowned slightly. The development of this plot seems to be a bit biased. Originally, the nuclear bomb should have been sent into the portal by Tony wearing a steel battlesuit. Then the nuclear bomb exploded, killing Chidori's headquarters. In this way, the war is over. But now, Tamiya was hit by a broken plane and exploded ahead of time. What about Chidori? Is it possible that Gul'dan alone can really withstand Chidori's tens of millions of troops? Lin Yu thought for a while. If there is enough time, it is estimated that it is really possible. But unfortunately, Gul'dan lasted only 1 hour. And now, almost half an hour has passed. Lin Yu hurriedly looked at the computer screen again. On the battlefield, the situation has changed again. The battle situation seemed a bit stale, because the portal was getting bigger and bigger, and the scale of victory started to lean towards the Chidori army. There are too many of them, as if endless. Although Gul'dan's servants are not afraid of death, even if they can beat 100 against 100, there will always be times when their bodies are sifted and cannot stand up. Finally, the Chidori army began to advance slowly. And seeing this picture, the corners of Loki's mouth also showed a slight smile again. The whole army is dispatched. Tear the monster to pieces for me, Loki yelled excitedly. It seemed that all the depression in my heart burst out. But Loki didn't feel happy for long, and then wilted again. On the battlefield, Gul'dan, who had been standing behind watching his servants fighting with the enemy, moved again. He didn't seem to worry about the current situation at all. But waiting for something quietly, finally, he raised the skeleton staff in his hand and muttered the spell in a low voice. After a few minutes, in front of him, a green light flashed, and a square object with huge amounts of suddenly appeared. This thing looks like a huge amounts of tripod. The inside of the tripod was glowing with green light, making it impossible to see what was inside. But Lin Yu in front of the computer screen immediately recognized what this tripod was. Well of Souls, one of Gul'dan's ability. When the tripod appeared, there seemed to be a strange sound from the entire sky. It's like countless souls crying in the sky. Quite a rash. Those crying sounds gradually turned into translucent blue things. From all directions, they began to gather towards the well of souls summoned by Gul'dan. The first to recognize those things was Ancient One. She watched in horror. Millions of souls were absorbed by the strange thing. Then, what's more terrifying is, after those souls flew into the well, they turned into a faint green when they came out. These green souls began to frantically search for the corpses on the ground. Almost in less than half a minute, countless bodies of Chitauri soldiers stood up again. And a green light appeared in the eyes of these corpses. It's no longer the blue it used to be, at the moment. Around Gul'dan, a large number of servants gathered again. A servant with a trace of evil ability. The most terrifying thing is that the number of these fell slaves seems to be endless. As long as a Chitauri warrior falls on the ground, a soul will fly out of the well of soul and get into the corpse. In just a few minutes, Gul'dan's army of servants has reached hundreds of thousands. There are mountains and plains, and the sky and the ground are all Chitauri soldiers with green eyes. The situation reversed instantly. No matter how many Chitauri soldiers and Leviathan beasts appear in the portal, they will be instantly killed by Gul'dan's servants. Then stood up again and joined the army of slaves. Gul'dan's ability is like a plug-in. No matter how much Chitauri is, it can't resist this kind of consumption. Finally, for unknown reasons, the number of Chitauri soldiers flying over in the portal seem to gradually decrease. It seems that something has happened on the other side of the portal. And at the moment, on the portal side, there is almost no living Chitauri on the earth. There is only an army of servants with green eyes. Loki no longer knew when, and quietly hid in the corner of the roof of the Stark industrial building. He has completely lost his confidence. This war seemed to be a farce for that monster. He had never made a few moves at all, relying on an endless army of servants to turn the tide of the battle. At this moment, Gul'dan's ugly face finally smiled again. He suddenly raised the skeleton staff in his hand, using the language of an orc. Roar shouted loudly, "Children, it's time to counterattack." The army of millions of servants began to rush towards that huge portal frantically. The expedition has finally begun, after Gul'dan gave an order. Throughout the battlefield, millions of Chitauri fighters who had been resurrected roared frantically. At the moment, they had completely obeyed Gul'dan. Even if he was fighting against his own clan, there was no hesitation at all. Countless resurrected fighters stood on the flight machine again. Dozens of huge behemoth Leviathan also split into a neat queue. And Gul'dan slowly walked to the body of a Leviathan beast in front of him. After standing on Leviathan, he stomped lightly. A large amount of evil energy emerged from his body, rushing into the body of Leviathan under his feet. After receiving the fell energy bestowed by Gul'dan, the body of this Leviathan monster instantly changed dramatically. Its body began to grow some green tentacles, spreading to the entire body surface, as if to add another layer of armor to this Leviathan beast. Immediately afterwards, sharp bone spurs began to grow constantly on its body, and its appearance became more healed. Till the end. Those green tentacles gradually condensed on Leviathan's back except for a dark green throne. Gul'dan slowly sat on it. The staff in his hand waved again. The whole army is dispatched. The fell army began to march towards the portal. This scene completely frightened Loki. This is a long-planned war of aggression. The aggressor is himself, Chitauri. However, in the current situation, it seems that the aggressor and the aggressor have changed their identities. The Chitauri army turned out to be the invaded party. And the aggressor, it seems there is only one person. There is only one monster. Loki slowly slumped on the roof of the Stark industrial building. At this moment, through the soul scepter in his hand, he suddenly received a voice. Loki is familiar with this voice. It's the voice of Chitauri's leader. "Loki, ask for your blessings, we are going to close the portal." Hearing the words of Chief Chitauri, Loki hurriedly stood up. The expression on his face changed. It looks like angrily, but it's a bit desperate. In the entire universe, Chitauri is extremely powerful, and the Chitauri, who burned and looted everywhere, flinched. They are actually scared. Loki could hear the panic in that voice. In the face of one person, the entire Chitauri race, the tens of millions of Chitauri army, actually flinched. Loki's heart is dead. Slowly, he squatted on the ground again. Although he could order Chitauri soldiers, he could not order Chitauri's leader at all. They are just a partnership. Had it not been for that powerful presence, Chitauri wouldn't even cooperate with him. Loki is completely desperate at this moment. The portal in the sky started to shrink slowly. Although Tesseract is on this side of the earth. However, on the other side of the portal, there is also a positioning device that corresponds to Roar. Obviously, Chitauri destroyed the positioning device. As a result, Tesseract could not find the location of Chitauri. Therefore, the portal will slowly close, but the speed at which the portal closed was still too slow. At this moment, almost half of Gul'dan's army rushed in. Even people on this side of the earth can see that there has been a terrible exchange of fire on the portal side. And at the moment, the portal has become smaller and smaller. Gul'dan, who was standing behind the slave army, seemed to realize something. If this portal is completely closed, then my mission seems impossible to complete. He slowly stood up from the throne on the back of his mount. The mission must be accomplished. This is why he came to this world. A fierce green light burst out in Gul'dan's eyes. The skeleton staff in his hand was raised again. A green ray suddenly shot out from his staff, and quickly penetrated behind the portal that was about to disappear. At this moment, the portal was finally completely closed. Gul'dan, tens of thousands of servants have been left on the earth. But Gul'dan did not panic. There seemed to be a weird smile at the corner of his mouth. Just now, he has located the world over the portal. Distance, for a powerful fell warlock, is not a key factor. Even crossing no close range is quite simple for a powerful fell warlock like Gul'dan. With a soft drink, the remaining legion of slaves began to turn around and walk towards the dark gate where Gul'dan appeared. The dark gate still stands quietly on the ground in New York City. But the other side of the dark portal has become Chittori's territory. Under the command of Gul'dan, tens of thousands of fell Chittori soldiers rushed into the dark gate that was glowing green. Till the end. On the entire battlefield, there was no shadow of Chittori and Gul'dan's servant army. Only Gul'dan was left, and slowly came to the front of the dark portal. But he walked in no hurry. Instead, he stood up from his throne and looked around. Once again, he took a deep look at this vibrant land. In his heart, he was still thinking about how to turn this world into his evil territory. When Gul'dan's sight came to the holy place location in New York, his gaze suddenly paused for a while. It seems that he saw something interesting to him. In Gul'dan's eyes, two strong green rays suddenly burst out. On the roof of the holy place building in New York. Having been following Gul'dan's supreme magician Ancient One, suddenly my heart trembled slightly. At the beginning, Ancient One wanted to go to Gul'dan for a while. But later, after seeing Gul'dan's strange ability, there was no war in her heart. In other words, she was a little scared in her heart. It's not that Ancient One is afraid to beat Gul'dan. Rather, she found that the evil energy in Gul'dan was too terrifying. Ancient One already possesses the power of darkness. She is resisting the erosion of darkness all the time. If she accidentally gets infected with that kind of evil energy, then she guesses that she will be infested by evil in an instant. In that case, it will be troublesome. It is better to plunge into the darkness than to plunge into evil. And at the moment, just when two green lights appeared in Gul'dan's eyes, Ancient One suddenly felt that his soul was marked by something. Ancient One is terrified. She hurriedly controlled her soul and got out of her body. Then looked down, suddenly startled. On the chest of his soul, a faint green rune appeared. Ancient One's soul hurriedly reached into his chest with a hand. But I can't touch anything. That green rune seemed to grow on his own soul. Oh my! What is this? Ancient One's face suddenly became extremely ugly. I didn't want to mess with that monster, but that monster suddenly shot myself. Although this green rune seems to have no problem now, Ancient One does not know the usefulness of this rune. Facing the unknown, Ancient One has nothing to do. Her soul hurriedly returned to her body. Ancient One's body rose into the air. No hesitation. Run quickly in the direction of Gul'dan. And in the process of advancing, a wave of hand opened the mirror space in an instant. Although she was a little afraid of Gul'dan in her heart, she must figure out what this monster had put in her soul. Otherwise, I will have trouble sleeping and eating. Ancient One's mirror space ability is one of her best skills. The moment the mirror space was opened, it crossed a distance of several thousand meters and directly enveloped Gul'dan. Happy in Ancient One's heart. Now that you have entered your own mirror space, it will be easier. In the mirror space, one's own strength will improve a lot. And the other party will be restrained. But when Ancient One looked at Gul'dan again, suddenly saw it. Gul'dan, who was pulled into the mirror space by Ancient One, didn't even have a hint of surprise on his face. His face remained calm. There was even a weird smile at the corner of his mouth. Something's wrong. Ancient One suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart. Gul'dan was actually very interested in this strange-looking human woman. He can feel some weird power in Ancient One's body. Those powers have many similarities with the evil energies in their own body. But Gul'dan also perceived that he didn't seem to have much time in this world. Moreover, his mission has not yet been completed. In any case, you must complete your mission. Gul'dan grinned lightly, showing a smile that was uglier than crying. He had planted a mark on that woman just now. If there is time, he will come to this world again. Definitely. Coming again will never be because of this woman alone. Also because there are too many lonely souls in this world and they need him to guide the way. In this world, he can build a huge army of Death Knights. Gul'dan smiled softly and waved his hand in front of him. A huge amounts of green fell sickle appeared suddenly. Taste. The mirror space was crushed in an instant. Ancient One was shocked. The figure who had rushed towards Gul'dan also hurriedly stopped. The mirror space is broken. Ancient One has never seen such a powerful attack. Even if you try your best to attack, it is impossible to break the mirror space. And that monster, with just a wave of his hand, directly shattered the mirror space that he was proud of. Ancient One's heart was filled with fear again. She stopped. Never move one more, and at the moment, Gul'dan seemed to have done a trivial thing. The staff in his hand gently tapped the fell Leviathan beast at his feet. The huge fell Leviathan slowly passed through the dark portal. Until the fell Leviathan beast's body all disappeared in the dark portal, that huge amounts of dark portal seemed to have finally completed its mission and slowly sank toward the ground. Only a ruin was left. Gul'dan, the fell warlock who is well known throughout World of Warcraft, finally left the Marvel world. And this world finally saw for the first time the evil power that was beyond the ability system of this world. But although the people in the Marvel world can't see Gul'dan anymore. However, Lin Yu can still on the computer screen in the grocery store. Gul'dan's figure is still displayed. At the moment, Gul'dan was riding a fell Leviathan beast, slowly appearing from a huge amounts of dark portal. And his army of servants is already waiting in the sky. In addition to the resurrected Chitauri soldiers, 50 super warriors who were transformed by fell energy also stood quietly on the backs of other Leviathan behemoths. After being transformed by the evil energy, they could completely survive in the void. As for Gul'dan, let alone more. As soon as he arrived in the space where Chitauri was, he immediately waved his skeleton staff. The huge army of slaves began to attack Chitauri headquarters. At the moment, Chitauri's huge mothership. The current leader of Chitauri, the other, is watching the battle ahead in horror. He was stunned. How did the original war of aggression become like this? How could there be such a powerful existence on Earth? The news I got clearly was that the Earth was very weak, and it was impossible to resist my army. But I didn't expect to encounter such a horrible existence. He is just a person, and he is helpless by thousands of troops. What made Chitauri leader the other stunned was that the other party even caught up after closing the portal. And the battle ahead is really weird. The opponent was able to resurrect the dead soldiers of his own infinitely. Then it becomes the opponent's power. Under the circumstances, oneself will definitely be wiped out. Cannot be like this. Theother has no other way. He can only tell this to his master, after a few minutes. On a display of the Chitauri mothership, a blurred figure finally appeared. His appearance seems to be due to the distance too far, and some are not clear. But his voice was passed over clearly. What's the matter? That voice was extremely majestic. Even at the distance of the endless starry sky, Chief Chitauri still looked a little scared. Master, I want to ask you for help. A monster appeared on that earth. He resisted my army alone, and now he has killed my lair. Chitauri leader the other directly faced the blurry figure on the screen. Kneeled down. His voice trembled slightly. I don't know if he is afraid of his master or the monster chasing from the earth. But obviously Chitauri's status is not high in front of that person. Huh. A bunch of rubbish. Even a small earth can't be beaten down. What use do I want you to do? The vague figure on the screen spoke again. However, the tone shown in the words made the other like an ice seller. Master, we are your most central servants, we must save us, the other pleaded again. In front of the monster on earth, his army fell too fast. He didn't even have time to escape. Chitauri's mothership is huge, and if you want to escape here, you won't be able to leave it in a short while. But the battle outside has already burned eyebrows. But on the screen, the blurry figure no longer has a sound. Even the entire screen is black. Chief Chitauri wanted to cry without tears. Attacking the earth was originally the command of the master. And now, it failed, and it was abandoned by the owner. Called the most miserable servant in history. Grocery store. When the Chitori mothership on the computer screen turned into a flame and completely turned into rubble. In Lin Yu's mind, the system reminder finally sounded. Ding. Congratulations to the host for his in-depth participation in the Battle of New York, the core story of Marvel, with 100% participation and 5 points for the follow-up story. Ding. The 5th level summoned creature, Fell Warlock Gul'dan, the duration has ended, return to the original world. The computer screen in front of Lin Yu returned to its original state again. On the screen, the online game Lin Yu played before, World of Warcraft, appeared again. And the role of Lin Yu is still in the copy. Those teammates have not left yet, at the moment. By everyone's side, Gul'dan, the previously disappeared boss, suddenly appeared. Several players in the dungeon were shocked at this moment. Someone typed in the chat box and said, "You may not believe it, I just saw Gul'dan in the news." "I don't believe it, I saw it too. Is that monster Gul'dan? I seem to see it too." What age is it? The information on the internet is still believed, those pictures are clearly P. Yeah. Are you all stupid? Gul'dan is just a game boss, how could he go to New York? Are you all paying attention to the monster that looks like Gul'dan, and not paying attention to those terrifying alien invasions? New York is all messed up. My home is in New York, but fortunately it is in the suburbs, but we can hear the audible exchange of fire. What kind of aliens are those TV stations made up to attract traffic? In the chat box, the players who haven't left the game have started to discuss it one by one. These players come from all over the world. But for such a big incident of alien invasion, they all learned about it through the internet. At the same time, I also saw the terrifying Fell Warlock Gul'dan on many online pictures. But at that time, the center of New York was almost in ruins. Those who have time to take pictures are all far away. So the photos taken are very blurry. It seems that the photo is a bit fake. Few people believed in Gul'dan's appearance. After all, most of the information on the internet today is fake. Only Lin Yu was indifferent to the rumors they said. What are you talking about? The last boss is up, and I can't fight anymore. Lin Yu crackled and typed on the computer. In online games, under Lin Yu's call, the players once again attacked Gul'dan, the final boss of the dungeon. Although the Battle of New York was indeed a major event, the whole world is talking about this matter on the internet. But, in fact, for those outside of New York, life has not been affected at all. After all, those Chitori on the earth today have not left New York City at all. Didn't even go out in Manhattan. Gul'dan's strength is really terrifying. The soldiers who were resurrected by his fell energy completely blocked the entire Chitori Legion near the portal. So, these players can continue to fight in the game. Only, what they didn't know was that the boss they were killing had actually just saved the earth. But in the fight, some players finally found a problem. This boss that just disappeared and reappeared, how can it not release skills? Hey, why does Gul'dan feel a lot weaker? What about his skills? Yes, after playing for so long, he didn't release the 2 big moves he should release. Fell Sickle and the Storm of Destruction. Something's wrong. It seems that he didn't call Death Knight either. Lin Yu also discovered this problem. The skill of Gul'dan, the boss, does have a relatively long cooling time. But I haven't seen him put a skill until now. This is too strange. Immediately afterwards, Lin Yu suddenly thought of a possibility. Is it? After the skills are released in the real world, they haven't cooled down yet? Thinking of this possibility, Lin Yu suddenly felt aroused in his heart. How does it feel so weird? It seems that the world where Gul'dan is, and this Marvel world are figured out. The skills released here will affect the cooling time in the game world. So, here comes the biggest problem. Will Gul'dan remember what happened in the Marvel world after returning to the game world? Lin Yu was suddenly taken aback by his own thoughts. If it really is, that's really scary, definitely. What Lin Yu didn't know was, Gul'dan has already made a mark in this world. It is the supreme magician Gu who is now retreating in Kamar Taj to be marked. Ding. It is detected that there is fear in the host's heart, and the computer decides to transfer the control of the summoned object to the host's hands. After that, all the summoned objects will be controlled by the host, regardless of level and space. The system seems to fall short of Lin Yu's fear. Suddenly there was a new reaction. With this system prompt, Lin Yu recollected it over and over again, and his heart was full of joy. The summoned object is actually under its own control? Any level, no space? Isn't that cool and crooked? Lin Yu even felt that he should throw the computer at the door. Since the summoned objects are under their own control, it is naturally better. But just after the system prompt dropped, another very strange thing appeared on Lin Yu's computer screen. On the computer screen, Boss Gul'dan, who was being abused by the players, suddenly turned green. What's happening here? Lin Yu was taken aback. In the game, the red name means that it can be attacked. And green is the color of teammates or player pet names. At the same time, the battle in the dungeon also stopped. All players can't attack B0SS Gul'dan. In the game chat box, a lot of question marks appeared in an instant. All the players were all dumbfounded. After brushing for a long time, I can't fight anymore? And how could the boss in the game become a green name? In this dungeon journey, too many weird things have happened. First, the dungeon boss suddenly disappeared, and then reappeared a full hour later. Then the dungeon boss won't release the skills unexpectedly, which made the players happy for a while. Immediately afterwards, the name of boss turned green. Can't be attacked. The players who couldn't stand being tossed by the game hurriedly withdrew from the team and left this instance. Till the end. In the entire copy, only Lin Yu is left. At the moment, he was very excited, and clicked with the mouse on the only remaining B0SS Gul'dan in the dungeon. Really? What a god! Lin Yu almost jumped up. At the moment, Lin Yu finally understood what it means to not divide space. Not only is the boss summoned into this world, even if he is still in the game, as long as he has been summoned once, he will obey Lin Yu's orders. It's amazing. Lin Yu yelled in excitement, and then directly quit the dungeon and came to the wilderness of the game world. Really? Gul'dan also followed. Gul'dan turned out to be the pet of Lin Yu's game character. Lin Yu was still walking around with Gul'dan in the game excitedly. And at the moment, the outside world, the Battle of New York is finally over. Ancient One took his own disciples unconsciously, and finally returned to Kamar Taj with lingering fears. As soon as she returned, she announced that she was going to retreat. The disciples were a little puzzled. The Supreme Magician is so powerful, why still have to retreat? Even Mordor Magician, who has the best relationship with Ancient One, asked about the situation of Ancient One, very puzzled. But Ancient One said nothing. She didn't know how to explain. At the same time, I also don't want people to know that a strange evil rune has been planted on his body. My disciples have too little knowledge of the evil energy, and their resistance to temptation is too poor. Caecilius, my most proud disciple, is the best example. He became Dormammu's servant because he couldn't resist the temptation of the dark power. Moreover, Ancient One found that that kind of evil power is even more prone to depravity than the dark power. She didn't even want the disciples to have any contact with those evil energies. Ancient One just said that he needed to comprehend some powerful magician skills, so he hid in his mirror space. In this regard, although other magicians are puzzled, there is no way. And Ancient One began a long study. The green rune in her soul made her sleepless. If she doesn't take out the rune, she is prepared not to go out of her mirror space. After the defeat, Loki was arrested again by the Avengers. Compared to the last time, Loki is much more honest this time. He was shocked by Gul'dan, Shield Ground headquarters. The Avengers gathered again. But the faces of everyone are not very beautiful. This war shocked them too much. These people have always been leaders in their respective fields. But it was not until they had personally participated in this horrible war that they understood that there are heaven and human beings outside the sky. Even Thor, who was fearless, was deeply terrified by Gul'dan's strength. He even felt that even if his father came, he might not be the opponent of that monster. Not to mention myself, and still lost Mjolnir's self. Thinking of his hammer, Thor felt aggrieved in his heart. If his own Mjolnir is still in hand, at least he can help a little bit in the previous battle. It's not that Tony Stark has always been stealing the limelight in the early stages. Everyone, who of you wants to come with me to get my hammer back? Thor suddenly looked at the Avengers next to him, and asked weakly. After this fierce battle, even Thor, the arrogant man, has established a deep friendship with the other Avengers. And Thor is really not familiar with the guy who grabbed his hammer. He didn't even know where he was. In addition, he can't sense Mjolnir at all now, so he can only turn to these companions around him. I have something else. Black Widow Natasha Romanoff suddenly smiled reluctantly and said. Lin Yu's lucky cat, after all, is only a second-level mutant. Natasha Romanoff has undergone professional agent training and gradually got rid of the influence of the lucky cat. She has noticed the weirdness of that grocery store. Hearing that Thor was going to find Lin Yu for a hammer, she was so scared that she tactfully expressed her refusal. But Thor didn't notice a trace of panic on Natasha Romanoff's face. He looked at the other companions again. Thor's gaze cast a circle on the faces of several of his companions. It seems that everyone is avoiding their gazes. Even Nick Fury next to him quietly turned his head, seeming to enjoy the scenery outside the window. I still have something to deal with in my company, I'm leaving first. Tony chuckled and called to everyone, roar, and left the SHIELD headquarters in a hurry. Dr. Banner hurriedly chased after him, and said as he ran, Stark, wait for me, I have a knowledge point to discuss with you. The two of them slipped away in tandem. The captain of the United States next to him is a little hesitation. Seeing Thor's helplessness, although he didn't want to go to that weird grocery store, he couldn't bear not helping him. It's really a dilemma. But fortunately, Hawkeye Barton spoke first. Or, I'll accompany you. A gentle smile appeared on Barton's face. He really hadn't seen that mysterious consultant Lin. The last time Lin Yu went to the SHIELD space carrier, he happened to be controlled by Loki. So I didn't see it. For Lin Yu, he has no bad impression. The more important reason is that in the previous battle, he caused a lot of trouble to everyone. So, he wanted to make up for it. Even if you just make up for Thor first, it's better than doing nothing. Seeing Barton take the initiative to ask, Steve finally felt relieved. Since Barton is going with you, I'll go back and rest first. Steve laughed dryly, and put a hand gently on the wound on his waist, looking like it was serious. As an honest man, Steve finally found an excuse for himself. It's been so long since the battle, and finally remembered to cover his wounds. But Thor didn't pay much attention to the reasons of these other people. Thor has never liked to care about these little things. In his heart, he was thinking about how to get his Mjolnir back. If Mjolnir can't get it back, then he doesn't even have a face to return to Asgard. Going back empty-handed, you will definitely be laughed at by Asgard's companion. Do not. There is no need to go back to Asgard. Loki alone can laugh at himself to death. For the sake of face, Mjolnir must also be brought back. Then, let's go now. Thor can't wait. Every minute left Mjolnir is a torment for him. Barton is also very interested. The only fellow among the members of the Avengers who has never seen Lin Yu, is still very curious about Lin Yu, an honorary consultant. He has asked Natasha Romanoff and Phil Coulson and others many times, but their descriptions of Lin Yu are very vague. At the beginning, I would take the initiative to advertise for Lin Yu's grocery store, saying that the goods there are good and cheap. But later, when they asked about the grocery store, they were silent. There seems to be something I don't want to mention. This makes Barton even more curious. What is it that makes Natasha Romanoff and Phil Coulson and others love and hate the grocery store so much? The two said goodbye to Nick Fury, and finally set foot on the road to Lin Yu grocery store. After the two left SHIELD headquarters, Nick Fury is not idle either. As the director of SHIELD, such a serious alien invasion has just happened, and he must revisit the war and learn some combat experience from it. And sum up the shortcomings of SHIELD, so that I can correct them later. Moreover, as the most direct commander of this war, he must also report all the details of this war to it. In a secret meeting room of SHIELD headquarters. Here, there are already two SHIELD high-level agents waiting for Nick Fury's arrival. One man and one woman are two of Nick Fury's most powerful men, Phil Coulson and Hill. The two of them are not only Nick Fury's most trusted subordinates, but also one of the two highest agent levels in addition to Nick Fury of SHIELD. They are Nick Fury's right and left hands. Nick Fury pressed the fingerprint on the door of the secret meeting room, then opened the door of the meeting room and walked in. Just now, the two have initially sorted out information about the war. After Nick Fury arrives, the two will report the compiled information to Director Fury. But after Nick Fury pushed the door in, he immediately noticed that there was something wrong between the two of them. They look like they have something to tell themselves. The shock in their hearts was already on their faces. Something must have happened. Nick Fury hurriedly asked, "What's the situation? What happened?" While talking, Nick Fury sat down on the front chair. In this war, although SHIELD did not make much contribution to victory. But after all, the war is over, and it ended with the victory of the Earth. This is perfect. So, even though the expressions of the two of them looked a bit wrong, Nick Fury didn't care too much. At this moment, hearing Director Fury's words, The two looked at each other, and finally Phil Coulson said first, "Post-director, we discovered one thing when we were sorting out the video materials of this war. This matter is incredible, so we think we must tell you before the report begins." Phil Coulson's face is not solemn, but he doesn't feel relaxed at all. "Oh?" Nick Fury was taken aback for a moment. As for what Phil Coulson was about to report, he suddenly became interested. He nodded and said, "Well, let's talk about what abnormal situation you found first." Nick Fury leaned back and changed to a more comfortable position. At this moment, Phil Coulson suddenly picked up the remote control on the table and turned on a display in the conference room. "Chairman, see for yourself. This is the video 2 minutes before the monster appeared in the middle of the war." Speaking of the content of this video, Phil Coulson's face showed a strange look again. Following the operation of Phil Coulson, the entire New York scene suddenly appeared on the monitor. The picture is very clear, it's like a close-up shot. But this video is not shot at close range. Instead, it was filmed through a dedicated satellite. The satellite that took this picture is exclusively dedicated to SHIELD. It was launched into orbit to enable SHIELD to detect threats on the Earth in time. The video it shoots is very sharp. The picture on the monitor, following the operation of Phil Coulson, gradually moved to 58th Street in Manhattan, which is only a few kilometers from the center of New York. When he saw the bright yellow car with 2 small red wings on his body, Nick Fury immediately understood where this place was. "Isn't this Consultant Lin's grocery store?" Nick Fury asked suspiciously. In the previous war, Lin Yu did not take action at all. What does his grocery store do now? Nick Fury was a little confused. But neither Phil Coulson nor Hill answered, but pointed to the screen in front of them at the same time. Nick Fury could only keep his eyes wide open and looked at the video on the screen. In the picture, it can be clearly seen that the 2 women are standing quietly at the door. Beside them, there is a dog and a car, but immediately afterwards, a figure of huge amounts of suddenly appeared not far from the grocery store, and was flying to Lin Yu's grocery store. At this time, the woman standing in front, seeing that her figure and hair should be Sharon, suddenly raised a hammer in her hand. That hammer is familiar to Nick Fury, it seems to be Thor's weapon. This picture is also familiar. Before, Nick Fury had seen it on the computer screen. However, the sharpness of the picture at that time was not very good, just a rough idea. And now, seeing this super clear picture, Nick Fury still felt a deep shock. In the video, the sky suddenly became lightning and thunder. Countless thunder and lightning are flying in the sky. Amazing lightning began to appear on Mjolnir in Sharon's hand. Too strong. Although it was the second time I saw it, Nick Fury still felt the terrifying power. Nick Fury turned his gaze to Phil Coulson and Hill. "I want to confirm whether this is what the 2 want to show themselves. If you think of a way to get Sharon and the hammer into SHIELD, then SHIELD's strength will increase a lot. This is what you want to report, isn't it? It's really shocking. When I saw it for the first time, I felt a little unbelievable, but now I see it again, it still feels that way." Nick Fury's eyes are still slightly shocked. But after hearing Nick Fury's words, Phil Coulson slowly shook his head and said, "No, Chief, not this." You continue to look down. Nick Fury was taken aback for a moment. "Not this, is there anything more shocking?" He looked at the screen again. Soon after, Nick Fury saw another picture. In the video, before Sharon could summon the thunder and lightning, another woman behind her suddenly floated slowly. It is clearer than the last time I saw it. Moreover, in this video, it is completely certain that the figure is Lin Yu's sister Wanda. Immediately afterwards, her body began to be filled with red light. The long skirt is flying, like a picture in a magic movie. Then, in Wanda's hands, a blood-red ball of light suddenly appeared. As she gently pushed forward, the blood-red ball of light shot out at the Leviathan beast in the distance at an extremely fast speed. Moment. That red ball of light exploded on the Leviathan monster. The power of horror broke out suddenly, directly lifted the Leviathan beast into flight. Powerful. Fear. Nick Fury is very aware of the strength and huge size of the Leviathan. Although it is not big to watch on the video. However, in fact, it is 30 to 40 meters long. And the body is covered with a thick layer of armor. The weight and defense are so horrible, but it was such a behemoth that was hit by Wanda casually and hit it directly. It can be seen how terrifying Wanda's true power is. Compared to Sharon using a foreign object like Mjolnir to summon lightning, Wanda's ability looks more powerful. At this moment, Nick Fury seemed to finally understand why Phil Coulson and Hill had to report this to themselves first. This is really important. The cleaning screen of this video made myself more sure of the strength of Wanda and Sharon. It is indeed worthy of my own focus. After knowing this news, S.H.I.E.L.D. is expected to change his strategy in the arrangement of Lin Yu's affairs. Well, it can be seen in the video that the powerful woman is Lin Yu's sister Wanda. This news is very important. We can look back on whether we want to invite Lin Yu's sister Wanda into Avengers 2, Nick Fury said solemnly. In Nick Fury's heart, he attaches greater importance to Lin Yu's family. But good. At this moment, Phil Coulson suddenly coughed slightly, and then said weakly, "Chief, it's not this, you continue to look down. Peas. A 4,000-word chapter is offered. The later update should be in the evening. There is something at home in the afternoon and I haven't had time to write. Work overtime at night, the update will not be less, but it will be a little later. Thank you boss for your support. Thank you. There is also the issue of the protagonist's strength. The improvement of strength has been put on the agenda, and we will see the results soon. However, the boss who likes the character of the protagonist need not worry, even if the strength is improved, the protagonist is still a cheap and bad home." Hearing what Phil Coulson said, Nick Fury was completely stunned. "Still continue to look down. I have already seen 2 things that shocked me so much. Will there be more shocking things in the future?" Nick Fury was filled with doubts. Whether it was the powerful lightning controlled by Sharon or the blood-red light on Wanda, they were already extremely powerful. These are already terrible. Could it be that there will be more terrible things? Nick Fury is actually a little unbelievable. However, seeing the solemn expressions of Phil Coulson and Hill, he gradually frowned. These 2 agents are not guys who like to joke. They said that if you continue to look down, it should be that something else will happen later. Nick Fury hurriedly widened his eyes and stared at the screen in front of him for fear of missing something. At the moment, in the video, Wanda's attack easily lifted the Leviathan behemoth. Immediately afterwards, Mjolnir in Sharon's hand also attracted all the lightning in the sky. Sharon waved the hammer in his hand, and the huge electric current instantly hit the Leviathan beast that had been lifted away. Those electric currents are very harmful to Leviathan. In addition, Wanda's attack has caused it to hurt badly. So, under the attack of these lightnings, the body of the giant Leviathan suddenly fell to the ground. Countless buildings and cars on the ground were crushed. The stone chips flew up in the smoke and dust billowed. The whole ground seemed to shake, however. Just 2 or 3 seconds after Leviathan's body fell to the ground. Sudden. A group of green light flew out from the door of Lin Yu's grocery store in an instant. High speed. Disappeared in the video screen. If it weren't for this S.H.I.E.L.D. special satellite filming of high quality, I would never find that thing. At the same time, with the remote control in his hand, Phil Coulson suddenly paused the screen. Then, the scope of the video suddenly widened. The green light group appeared in the video again. Phil Coulson played the video again, but the speed of the video has been slowed down a bit. Nick Fury can clearly see that the green light group has come a few kilometers away from the grocery store. Then, going underground. Yes, it actually got into the earth. Immediately afterwards, a horrible scene appeared. At the place where the green light cluster sank into the ground, suddenly the ground began to bulge and the house began to tilt. It seems that some giant is burrowing out of the ground. Only a few seconds later, a huge amounts of portal appeared at that location. And the figure of Gul'dan also slowly walked out of the portal. Nick Fury was stunned. The expression was sluggish, and it seemed that the brain couldn't react. Until now, he didn't know the name of that monster. But he understood that the monster was quite terrifying, and the almost invincible Cheetar army that Loki bragged about was defeated by him. One person resisted an extremely powerful race in the entire universe. Even counterattacked back. It's like a god. Do not. Demon. That guy, resurrecting the corpse and summoning the soul is definitely a means of the devil. Although Nick Fury has always been puzzled about Gul'dan's origins. But never thought of it. That terrifyingly powerful monster turned out to be from Lin Yu's grocery store. The green ball of light came out of the grocery store. This has basically been determined. The monster that defeated Chitauri's army by one person was created by Lin Yu. Oh my. Nick Fury seemed to have lost all his strength and collapsed on his chair. When the power is strong enough to not be afraid of everything, then it has transcended the shackles of the world. Nick Fury finally understood. Why is Lin Yu acting so selfishly? No one is afraid of offending. Even Thor's hammer dared to snatch it away. Original. There is a reason for all this. At this moment, Phil Coulson walked slowly to Nick Fury's side, with a bitter face, and said weakly, "Director, this is what we want to show you." Nick Fury has not been relieved in shock. Phil Coulson was ignored. At the moment, in his heart, there was more than shock. There is also fear. Lin Yu can summon such an existence, basically there is no opponent on Earth. I'm afraid, just to put eyes on the entire universe, it is estimated that it is top-notch. Fortunately, when I first met Lin Yu, I got closer to him. And also gave Sharon to him as an assistant. If I refused at that time, I am afraid it is definitely not the case now. Do not. No. Such a relationship is not strong enough. Nick Fury's brain turned frantically. As the world's largest agent leader in Marvel, his head is very smart. In the past, no matter what the problem was, he could easily think of a solution. But face Lin Yu. He felt that he must be cautious and cautious. Make sure that the opponent and yourself are completely on the same line. Only by building a good relationship with Lin Yu can the Earth be truly safe. What Thor? What Loki? It's all clouds. The real powerhouse is Lin Yu, who has been living low-key in the grocery store on 58th Avenue in Manhattan. At this moment, Nick Fury tipped and got up from the chair. He suddenly remembered that Thor and Barton seemed to have gone to Lin Yu's grocery store. They seem to want to bring Thor's hammer back together. Don't make them impulsive. Don't provoke Lin Yu. Let's not say if Lin Yu gets angry, can the two of them be able to handle it? Even if you are not angry, it will affect the relationship between S.H.I.E.L.D. and Lin Yu. This can't work. Hill, contact Barton for me. If he and Thor have not yet arrived at Lin Yu's grocery store, let them come back quickly, Nick Fury said hurriedly. Hill was taken aback for a moment. Immediately afterwards, I thought of what Chief Fury was worried about. Because these two people seem to be aggressive just now, are they going to trouble Lin Yu? Hill was equally shocked. Hastily picked up his cell phone. While dialing the number, he asked, "Chief, what if they have already arrived?" Without thinking about it, Nick Fury hurriedly said, "Here, let Barton hold Thor, don't do it." Nick Fury's worried face was full of sweat. He knows the character of Lin Yu very well. If you respect him a foot, he may not respect you half a foot. But if you dare to provoke him, then his revenge will never stay overnight. General Ross of the New York Military District is the best example. At this moment, Barton's call finally got through. Hill hurriedly asked, "Barton, did you and Thor go to Consultant Lin's grocery store?" On the phone, Barton's voice came. "Here, what's the matter?" Hearing Barton's words, the expression on Hill's face suddenly became more solemn. She lowered her voice and said slowly, "The chief has ordered you to hold Thor, don't do it in the grocery store." Over the phone, Barton seemed to hesitation. "It seems that I don't know how to reply to Hill." A few seconds passed. On the phone, Barton's voice came. Okay. I will try to hold him." Hill's expression changed. Nick Fury was shocked, and secretly said something bad. Hastily grabbed the phone from Hill's hands. Then he said nervously, "Don't try your best. Be sure to hold him. Don't do it. I will fly over immediately."